Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to our Gatewalkers Q&A wrap-up. Hello, and welcome. I hope you are all as happy to be here as I am. It has been a long journey to get to this wrap-up. It's been a long campaign. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of craziness. It's been a lot of rules learning. And I thought we got a bunch of questions to go through. Piranha's been kind enough, along with Keeper of the Art, to help us put together a whole bunch of questions and things. We've got a document, and we're going to be adding questions and stuff to the document as we go. But I figured we might as well just hop right into things. And I thought it might be good to start us off with maybe favorite moments. Why don't we do some favorite moments from the campaign? How's that sound? Either that, or we can start off with questions that you all have. Which would you prefer? Do you have any burning questions that you want to ask?
I mean, you're the host.
Frank's like, don't put this shit on me. Don't put this shit on me.
I get to be in the other seat for once.
Here's my question, Wack. Who was your favorite NPC?
Favorite NPC was the Smiling Wolves guy for sure.
Nice.
God, what was his name? I can't even remember.
I don't know. He was hot though.
That was the whole thing. I got to interact with him, I think, when we left because I had missed a couple. That was like
Matt's
a few weeks I was
Bollenden.
out or something.
Matt's
That's right.
That's right.
Yep.
I have a favorite NPC.
Okay.
Mine was Egbert.
Egbert,
Okay.
What a champ.
Anybody else?
The curator was such an interesting one.
Yeah. I
Oh,
think
from First World.
Way back
The bug.
when.
Yeah.
First World, I
Yep.
think it was from.
First World.
Yep,
And then
First
we
World.
brought him to Lashunta with us.
He
And
was like, "Peace out, losers."
I took all of his paintings that
How long did you have those paintings for? It was a while.
I mean, in real, like, it was like 7 months or some
Yeah, it
stupid
was easily
shit.
like half the
Like,
campaign.
it was about half the campaign. Yeah.
Yep.
Those things will always haunt me.
What was the hamster, guinea pig, porcupine?
Oh.
Egbert.
Hubert.
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 Yep.
It was Hubert.
Egbert was the one that got arrested, but
Oh my God,
Hubert.
you're right. Yes.
Yeah.
Egbert.
Too many birds.
Egbert
It was so random.
boy.
Like, was that an actual NPC or did you just make that
he
thing?
was there. Yep.
Why?
Yeah, there was
Good
art,
question.
Remember? Hubert.
Because good old
Yeah.
Kanipo wanted a little friend.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
Hubert.
Just like
Hubert,
So weird.
the little critter, right? The little critter in the cage.
Is basically a hamster, or no? He was a
hedgehog.
hedgehog.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I
big
wondered
He was
hedgehog.
like a
why
3 or
was
4
he
foot
even there?
hedgehog or something. He was captured. I think he said he was just like he stumbled into the first world accidentally, and Kanipo was like, "You're mine now. You're interesting," and then just
Okay.
captured him.
Our
Yeah.
first big bad was like totally in line with Karun, so I almost didn't fight him.
Bolin. Bolin Nagasso.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
Bolin. Bolin had some interesting ideas for Karun.
Yep. We had so Dan, what was your favorite NPC?
I mean, God, the curator really was way up there, but I might actually. I mean, they were the big bad, but I might actually say Kanipo. That was way early on, but like such an interesting, like different, weird character, weird morals. I mean, I know Rostok tried to like take his place for a brief moment there. It didn't work out that way, but that was in his mind, like, this could be a cool, interesting place to be. I mean, if I live, cool. And so I don't know. I thought him kind of interesting.
I also liked his like inventor guy that was there too. Do you remember when Adronis was like trying to break the machine?
The pervert.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pervert.
Yeah, because you became half pervert.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are they called? Like
Freak out.
dark walkers or like
No, that was
No.
no. It was a
Deep folk, something like that.
I can't remember. It was
Perverts.
Yeah, it's just perverts. That's because we overrode their real name. And
yeah. I mean, I've got to open up the
Nobody
PDFs.
can remember their name.
This campaign went on for so long. Well, because they were only there for like 2 episodes.
Yeah,
It was like 2 episodes at most, I think. Oh God, who
it
were
felt
they?
so much longer. But I think it wasn't as long as
Those
it
were
felt.
trauma episodes.
It was so
Yeah.
intense.
Yeah.
Those are trauma episodes. I mean, that's basically when Adronis went, right?
Yep.
Yeah. When Adronis died on his own volition and no one else helped that along at all.
He nodded. Now was it a nod of do it or a nod of I'm dying and I just can't really think well and my head's moving?
Honestly,
It was the look-see man, and
Yeah,
they
that's
were a
right.
fletchling.
looks man.
Fletchling.
Yeah,
Fletchling.
fletchling.
Yeah,
That's
that's what
it.
it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Leiko, the Shay experimenter that you decimated like super fast and was supposed to be way harder.
Well, that was really hard.
Oh, was
'Cause
that
they
the
were,
really
like,
hard
climbing on
fight?
the walls and shit?
Yeah, that was the one that was like in the air.
That was a
Right.
look-see man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Luxie
None
was
of
the
us-
walls, but the
Luxie
other one was
man
the
was the
masked one, and
Yeah.
None of us had a way to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh god, the fucking wall climbing. I think it was only because we lucked out knocking them down 2 separate times. Like a drone knocked them down, and I think a ray of frost knocked them down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know who my favorite NPC was?
Who was it?
Capstan.
Yeah, I agree. Now I was gonna say that was mine. It's
The
some random
recurring-
shit.
The recurring
The
theme of
submissive
like the camera switch back,
Oh, yeah.
and we have Malavic's like intense disdain.
That was such a good scene.
Yeah.
And the whole ship of all the ghost pirates too.
Yeah, that
they
was
were
fun.
cool.
Yeah, the captain was cool.
Yeah.
I liked him.
Yeah, that was great. Okay. So why don't we'll hop into some questions and we'll see if you all have any questions as we go. I have a handy dandy document put together again by Piranha and Keeper of the Art, so thank you for that. Collecting various questions from our audience. So let's start off with a Keeper question. Keeper asks, what was your reasoning for asking Wack to make the finale difficult? As a viewer, it feels like Wack doesn't usually hold back even without asking for that. So I was wondering if it was for a personal challenge. Did you feel it would make a better story?
I mean, I guess I'll answer since I'm pretty much the one that asked for it to be harder. It's we decimate things. I mean, it's like if we're on the same brain length, things just don't live, and it kind of makes for we have so much RP, and then like we don't. I was thinking like we should balance the scales here, and it's mostly us versus one thing, and I could be like, oh, you better be ready for that. And next thing you know, we just decimate. And he's just like, oh, I didn't have anything planned for this because I didn't think you guys were going to go that way and do that. Or we just avoid the fight all together. So I was just like, maybe make it a little bit harder so we can work for it and then have some RP build off of that as well. Because, wanting to build a personal connection for the audience and the characters and their struggles and stuff. I mean, this is a life threatening situation. If we wipe it out in an instant, then what was the point, How he made it harder, that was on him. Raising the stats like that is kind of a choice. There's other ways to do it.
Well, so listen. What ended up happening with that was we had some time constraints, right? So I had to figure out how can I make this really exciting and difficult in a short time frame, because if I played it a little bit differently and I didn't really have to worry about the timing, I probably would have made the last episode like 2 episodes instead, and given you a little bit more time to play around with things. But I did some like math. I was like, let me do some math. Let me see what the average hit will be with the way that the stats are set up right now. And let me tweak it because I want this to be a serious threat. Like I want somebody able to to not be one shot necessarily, but like maybe 2 shot or 3 shot. So like if there's a round of attacks from the boss on one person, I want them to be able to go down.
Yeah, it came close to that multiple times too.
Well,
we
yeah.
had multiple knockdowns, and like honestly, I feel like a big reason too that like having the difficulty amped up for that fight is also like that's the last combat we're gonna have with these characters for the foreseeable future, right? Like, go out with a bang. If there are permas, there are permas. You know, I was fully ready for Yara to die that episode.
Yep. Same with Orcelia.
I'll say for my part that Pathfinder difficulty scales really weird, right? Like we can be completely OP when we've just had a full rest, but as soon as we use some of those big abilities, suddenly our backup stuff is way less powerful. So it can seem sometimes that we're steamrolling stuff when we have had just our first big long rest, and then suddenly afterwards we're like
We went through like 3 or 4 fights, right?
Yeah.
Prior to it was
That
like
was also on purpose.
3 consecutively.
Yeah.
I was purposefully trying to rush you in those situations and not really give you a chance to rest. I was trying to feel it out. I was like, if they want to rest, I can see if we can swing it and like see where we are in the episode, and like I was gonna judge it based on like what you did. So I had a little bit of flexibility there. I was like, okay, if they're gonna rest, I'm just gonna speed them through it, and I would roll to see if bad stuff happened, just like normal for a rest or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was part of the difficulty. Was I want you to be kind of empty on stuff, because the idea is as soon as you like stop that ritual, the way I envisioned it in my head was they like, okay, now they know that you're actively stopping them from accomplishing their goals. You're here, you're actually stopping them. It's time to like ramp it up. So that was in my head with the whole thing, and I thought, if you had full spells, again, we were stuck on time. So if you had all of your spells and everything, I would have balanced the fight way differently. I would have done it way differently. Ideally, I wanted to throw multiple phases at you, like a Final Fantasy boss or something, and do multiple phases and be like, oh, here's phase 1. Maybe do something with. I was gonna do more with those crystals that were trapping Einamurrin.
Yeah.
Can I talk about those for a second?
Yeah.
I just want to say that I really, really appreciated for like the big combat set pieces that there always seemed to be like some little puzzle that if we could just put the pieces together, it would be a lot easier to do the fight. Like we could always do the fight and it would be drastic and huge and it would take a long time. Or there was, usually speaking, like 80% of the time, there was like a little puzzle. And if we could just figure it out, the fight would be way easier. And I love that. I think that's an excellent way to do combat.
That is a very good point. I think that any major boss fights should have those kinds of options.
Yeah, like the dream creatures from this one that turn against the big bad,
Or the fountains and the that water.
Yeah,
like that
temple.
temple.
Yeah, that's right,
breaking
exactly.
those, and that caused it to be a lot easier all of a sudden. Yeah.
And then the
I
big
love
platform
that.
thing that was suspended by the chains, little dashboard that Karun was messing with.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different options for that kind of thing. I think that if I had to redesign that fight and I didn't have to worry about time, there would have been multiple phases. I probably would have broken it down to okay, Einamurrin's there, and you see Einamurrin, you see that something's obviously corrupted Einamurrin. I think, you can immediately put 2 and 2 together. Hey, this is Osoyo that's done this. So what I would do is I do something with like the corruption sort of spreading. I would have done more Black Frost stuff. He did have some Black Frost things that would happen if you outright killed him like really quickly. There were basically Osoyo Awakens was an option. And Osoya was going to do some Black Frost stuff through the ice. That could have happened. But timing-wise, I'm like, I got to cut a lot of this stuff out. And it just kind of, I felt like we were mostly on pace. A little too late we went, but like mostly we were on pace. So, you know, all that stuff you have to factor in when you're doing these kinds of fights. I think overall, I think it was a really good finale kind of fight. It seemed like, you know, the audience really liked it and everything. And it was exciting and dangerous, and you definitely almost died.
It was so fun. It was so fun. It was also the longest, I think, that I've ever taken on my turns as well. Because there was just so much bad shit happening. Like, as the healer, I legit was shaking. I felt sick during that entire episode because it felt like I really had to make sure, like, no one else perma'd. It was fucking horrible.
Oh, God.
But it was really fun.
Oh, I mean, like, I knew that you personally were having a lot of stuff, because, like, I kept being like, stop focusing on me.
Yeah.
I'm not the one you need to heal. Because if I go down, that's whatever. If they go, the people body blocking for us, if they go down, we're dead.
So,
but yeah, it was interesting.
can I tell you what I changed about the boss? And
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So first off, Ina Murin was, I made him a level 14 elite. Level 14. Because I got a pretty good sense of what you can fight dead on, like evenly, and what will be challenging
so 4
for
levels
you.
higher than us at the time.
Yep. And originally, I think he was just a level 11 regular creature. And I was like, you guys are going to stomp this. I'm like, this isn't going to be a fight. I mean, if you just go in, because you never know what players are going to do. There's players that could kind of go in and just, I cast level 9 fireball. You know, immediately the most powerful spell that you have. I think that is like the normal feeling. Like, we need to DPS this immediately, the highest DPS we can do. And it's very like a D&D way of thinking, right? Let's blow our most powerful spells immediately and kill this guy. So I did that. And I debated on making the Animate Dreams elite and making those higher level too. But when I did the math. I did math for all this stuff. And I was like, no, this is going to be too much. And so that I left as they were. I was thinking, should I add more? And it was going to be how well the fight was going. I was going to add more. More of the crystals were going to sort of turn into Animate Dreams. If it looked like, oh shit, they're annihilating this, I was going to add more. So that was always in play there.
The backline would have been wrecked if you made them higher.
Yeah,
Like,
and-
any higher level.
Wrecked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if they were any higher level, we would have been down.
And
Yeah.
then I did something, and I'm sorry, Dan, I did this specifically for you. I made him
Oh, I
immune to
bet.
slow. Because
And it's slow and all diseases.
no, the disease thing was there. That was there.
Oh, it's resistant. That's what
no,
it was.
immune to disease is part of the thing. It was just part of the
Okay,
creature.
Yeah,
So
most of the creatures I noticed toward the end were.
I made an immune to slow because I'm like, this is
Yeah.
gonna break the fight.
No.
Slow
I
is a
understand.
boss breaking spell in this game. If you get the slow on a boss, immediately you lower the difficulty. I don't know, 4 levels. It's crazy.
We did it 1 or 2 times. It worked.
You did it
'cause
to
they rolled, like-
Riddleson.
Riddleson got slow. That's
Yeah.
right, because he rolled like a crit fail or
Mm-hmm.
something absurd. It was like, oh, okay, the one
the
number
whole
we
fight.
needed. Yeah.
Yeah. So those were the big changes. I was
Yeah.
going to add more of the animate dreams if you were annihilating the fight, and I changed Ina Murin's level, and I changed the damage on the attacks. I was just like, no, this isn't enough damage. I saw how much damage it was going to do, and I'm like, no, this is nothing. They're not going to be threatened at all, this whole fight. I'm like, I was like, oh no, fucking Faye is going to heal through this like it's nothing. I'm like, this is like a mosquito bite. Are you kidding me? I've seen Faye heal, I don't know, 200 damage on one turn or some shit across everybody. No. We got to do at least, there's got to be like a minimum of like 60 to 100 damage every turn. So that was that was how I calculated all that stuff. The spells were what they were. And Aina Murin had that the top initiative roll because, well, frankly, he was a level 14 elite. So I was like, okay, normally players come in and use their biggest spell. I think I'm going to do that to them.
Yep. Oh, no,
Oh, it worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
I'm trying to remember what it's a show, anime. I don't remember what it is. Oh no, fuck! It's a. I know it's a strange reference here, but like Undertale. You fight like one of the things you fight. It starts out as like I don't know why no one starts with their strongest attack. Was like a line in that because the boss like throws everything at you right off the bat. It's like why would I start out and ramp up? I'm gonna try to fucking kill you right off the bat. And that's exactly what we walked
players
in.
do.
Phantasmal, go. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would have been fucking bad. I mean, the damage on that was insane.
11d6 plus 4.
Ah, that was horrific.
Oh,
I don't know.
It was a great way.
I
don't
almost
know,
got
like,
knocked out
when-
first round.
When it clicked with everybody that Pathfinder is like really, really weighted towards status effects. But for me, it was like halfway through the campaign.
Same.
I like didn't realize that Pathfinder is so heavily weighted towards giving enemies status effects. And it was only then that I started trying to like actually cause status effects.
I remember
so it's weird when stuff doesn't get them, you know?
I remember Frank talking about it very early on. He was like, you know, because you read a bunch of guides and stuff, Frank, and you were just like,
Well, it's it's a game of debuffs. Like D&D is a game of damage, and this game is a game of debuffs. So you just debuff everything, and then if you don't debuff, it'll debuff you, and you'll die. And I read this early on because I was really frustrated with Adronis early on. Because early game Pathfinder sucks, by the way. So if you're doing a campaign, start like level 5 or something, because it's horrible. The monsters are just like 2 or 3 levels above you.
The fucking session 0.
Yeah, the dogs were insane. The hellhounds or whatever they were, the shadow dogs. Yeah. So what we were missing was debuff. So we would debuff, we wouldn't have had a problem. Same thing with Kanipo.
Faye also switched up the way that she did things, and she had to like learn how to heal in Pathfinder because it was so different.
It was so different. It's so heavily reliant on like what is it? On medicine. Medicine in this game is incredible. I don't know how other like groups manage to do these huge boss fights and stuff without battle medicine in particular. And like for in between fights, if you don't have somebody who's good at medicine, oh my god, that would have been horrible. That would have been so
every
bad.
full rest, you don't heal that much. Like think of trying to get Malavik up to full health without like as strong a heal. It wouldn't happen. He'd be like constantly running around like a quarter health. Like, well, boy, I hope we have temp HP enough. And then you get hit for 136 in a boss
You
fight.
buying pots. You drunk off pots.
Did you see
Yeah,
this?
it'd be all pots.
I'm sad I didn't take things like protection and stuff earlier too. We would have benefited so much from that early game.
There's so much stuff to learn in the game. It's vast. I mean, you know, we're talking you know, what is it, 600 pages was the book or something?
God.
That's a beefy book.
Insane.
That's a beefy book.
And then the remaster, like halfway through, changed a lot
Oh
of
my
it
god,
as well.
yeah! We swapped to Foundry, we had to swap to the remaster.
That was the next big swap, because the first swap for me was I was originally like a completely different kind of alchemist that was completely useless.
You were Bomber.
No, she switched to Bomber.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
you were
switched-
Mutagen.
It was mutagen, yeah, it was mutagen.
And at least early on, it was not
It
useful.
was really bad.
It's just like, I can get
It's alchemists in
+1 to
general.
damage. And then
Yeah,
I'll die
wow.
in combat. Like,
Yeah. Nope.
So yeah, we had a lot of different things happen. Just to follow up on that, there were a few questions about that kind of stuff. So why don't we piggyback?
oh yeah.
So Piranha asked this for everybody. After 88 sessions, it's 3 hours a week. How would you grade Pathfinder for anyone interested in trying it out? It is still seen as crunchy and bulky. What are the pros and cons? And would you say D&D is a good entry point or any other system?
I think
That's
the
a good question.
remaster for Pathfinder presents like a really accessible way to get involved in the system. I would avoid anything with D&D right now for a lot of reasons, but I think Pathfinder, this new remaster, is significantly more streamlined and easier to pick up than previous versions. So
It's also very balanced in comparison, I feel.
yeah.
Maybe it's a whack thing, and then he was like crunching numbers on the side, but like the game just felt more balanced the entire way through.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You're good.
No, what were you gonna say?
I think it really is class dependent,
That's true.
especially and class and level dependent. At least for I would say both Witch and Alchemist. Until we hit like level 6, I felt useless about 2/3 of the campaign. Truly, I loved it for the RP. I liked the like interesting dynamics and like some of the buffs I got to have, but Witch was honestly bad through level 5. It was
To be-
like,
To be fair,
all
we
of
tried to
the-
warn you.
no, and I knew.
Frank's
I
like,
did know.
told
no,
you
no,
so.
and like that's why I like.
He was like,
you
I don't
didn't
care,
see me,
I'm
like-
theming it. I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, and you didn't see me like truly frustrated and mad because I knew that going in. Like there were times where I was like, I am frustrated, but it's just because it's hard. But I'm not like actually mad.
No, I get it.
You know, like I knew it would be a challenge, but nonetheless, like they built that class not great early on. Like here's diseases, here's hexes, here's things. Everything will have like you have to roll like an 18 or 19 or 20 to get it to work, and it was pretty rough. And Alchemist, I saw the same thing with you. Like,
Well, for me, the Alchemist stuff changed so drastically with the remaster that I think it's feasible early game. Have you went and looked back at Witch for like the beginning of stages?
same.
Oh no.
No, like they changed some of the hexes up a little bit, and they define things a little bit better, but still, its front end is really not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
They
way
also with the remaster changed Life Oracle so much. I didn't ever
Yes.
really use my stuff, like except for at the very end there.
Yeah.
Pre-remaster Life Oracle was so good. It was so good. So my suggestion, if like somebody is picking up like a healer on Pathfinder 2e, like maybe do some other type of class if you are like set on being an oracle, or maybe do like cleric.
Well, here's the problem.
Kyrugen.
Here's the problem.
Kyrugen bomber.
Well, here's the problem with cleric, in my opinion, is that you lose a lot of your flexibility because when you set up your spells, when you prep your spells for the day, you have to specifically say, I want heal here, and I want this spell here, right? You
Yeah, they're
can't, you
prepared.
don't get slots. You just get like, I want this spell, and this spell, and that's what you got.
True. Spontaneous was nice. Spontaneous
Yeah.
casters, they're fun.
It's the reason I stopped preparing heal entirely, because I used to prepare it early on because I didn't have a lot of utility, and then later I'm like, nope, I need just all of the debuffs possible, and that's why I liked him later on, is because
Cleric, you get free uses of
many
heal?
debuffs and buffs.
yeah.
They have a lot of stuff.
Cleric is definitely the early game like champion, but this game Pathfinder, which is why I think you should start Pathfinder. Here's the reason why. D&D is super easy, especially with D&D 1 coming. It's super easy. It's almost a walk in the park. I mean, it gets to the point where it's not fun. I'm just being honest. Unless you have a good GM that knows the game inside and out and can balance it to where it is fun and challenging. I found myself in D&D in the beginning. There's that little frustration and like a little bit of fun here and there learning your character. Once you like get to level, I don't know, 6 or 12, maybe not even make it a 12, like 6 to 10, you start just bowling through things without even needing magical items. One thing I like about this game is it's a team game. In D&D, I figure you build your character out for yourself mostly, and you can pretty much solo whatever you're fighting in front of you. One thing I liked about this, it took a village to take down things. Like debuffs were very important. Hill phases were very important. Where to use your skills, when not to use your skills, when to go in, when not to go in, what to tank, what not to tank. Positioning was very important for this.
Flanking.
Yeah, like flanking and stuff. Yeah, putting things off guard was really important. And there was always an answer within the fight. So if you're having trouble hitting something, we didn't do this in the beginning, by the way, because we didn't have the classes for it. We should have flanked more. We should have put things off guard to lower their AC so that people can hit more. Which is weak in the beginning because it's stupid strong later on with all the debuffs it gets, right? So we have to balance the scales with that. This game does take a little bit more conversating in the background, I think, a little bit more metagaming than D&D. And D&D, you can pretty much play whatever you want and kind of pick up things along the way, scrolls, pots. It doesn't work like that in this game. So I personally say might as well get the hard test out and learn the basics and just do a basic campaign first. You don't have to do the adventure path we did, but do a basic campaign and you'll have a lot more fun, because creating a character in this game is way better than creating a character in D&D, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, the creation in this was awesome.
And
there's so much flexibility too, like with the way that they do the feats and everything, and like the way that they do whatchamacallit,
ancestries,
like it's not multi-classing, dedications, the dedications. Yeah.
And there's,
you were gonna say
there's
something,
cool
I think,
free tools as well. You don't have to pay for the official tool. There's just a ton of free ones.
Yeah, there was a level of excitement when everybody was making their characters that I don't really normally experience with a lot of the systems that we've played. There was like Frank remade his character like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Frank is notorious. He's like for always like remaking characters and whatnot. But I remember, Frank, you were genuinely excited. Like each time you made one,
stayed up till like 7 a.m.
He would message me like in the middle of the night, be like, "Dude, I cannot wait to talk to you like about what Faye and I stayed up. Like, oh my God, we were working on this all night. Like, I was like, Frank, I have to get the art done." I was like, can you make a fucking decision? But
next time you need to make 3
arcs. You were so
arcs.
Excited, dude. You were so excited.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm excited for whatever next adventure comes. Like, now that we know this system for decently, it's just like, man, the future is open, man. It's really great. And the world building is it's incredible. Like, I don't know. That's what I loved about Stella's character, and I wish we would have utilized it more, because the world's lore is insane. Like, you guys have no idea in chat how big this lore is, man. Just in Lascia Allure alone is huge. And I was wanting, like, Stella's character was like, well, you can explain it better than me, Stella. Your diplomatic stuff.
Yeah, my character had links to various cities that we never even touched on in our campaign, because she was a well-traveled character, and as an emissary would travel a lot. And reading about Karamaga was super cool. The Uskarn, all of the orc lore is super cool. The Whispering Tyrant, all of that stuff didn't really come up very much in our game.
Yeah. That's definitely like a difficult thing to do, to like integrate all this stuff and get people's backstories in there. It was one of the things that I definitely would have tried to do a lot more of. Whenever I do adventure paths or modules or what have you, I usually try and play them pretty orthodox, because I know that like people will use it for reference for their games. Like how does Tablestory put a spin on this module, or adventure path? And I try to keep it pretty orthodox, and I'll make some changes here and there. But I usually keep it pretty close. But the show, it was a very long campaign, a very long adventure path, and I would have loved to do more backstory stuff. I really would have. But sometimes it just doesn't. It's hard to squeeze it in. I tried to leave like little hints, little starting points for backstories, so that like if people wanted to take their characters here and have their own adventures or what have you, then that might be something to explore or what have you. But that's always something that I try to do, and we kind of ran out of time, honestly. So that would have been something I would have changed for sure.
I think we had a really good level of like backstory to current story. I think I feel like we said the stuff we wanted to say mostly. And then we were able to like use it to have like a cool new adventure and I don't know, interaction with each other.
Yeah, the whole arc with like the memory tree, like being able to bring up all the memories, that was a really cool way of tying in our backstory and bringing it to the forefront.
Good.
Okay. Let's see if there was any more stuff here with.
I will say that with Pathfinder, like I've played a ton of different TTRPGs, and if someone was going to pick up TTRPGs for the first time, there's no way I would sit them down for Pathfinder. No way. But like once they like get the idea of like what is a TTRPG and they've had a couple of games, I would absolutely get them onto Pathfinder. I like it so much more than 5e.
From a GM perspective, and a show runner perspective, starting in Roll20 was extraordinarily difficult. I had to translate for the first half of the show. I had to translate everything onto Roll20, and I had to do it all myself. There wasn't a module on Roll20 available for Gatewalkers, and I was hoping, I was like, please let them like add this after I start this show or whatever, and they just didn't. Because I think the Paizo squad was, just kind of working with Foundry. Foundry, was built with
awesome.
with Pathfinder. They were like, we want to work together. We want Pathfinder to have its own space, and it's really, you could tell it's made for Pathfinder. So if we had started in Foundry, I feel like this entire thing would have been very different and significantly better.
Yeah.
So if you are starting a Pathfinder campaign, I highly recommend you use Foundry for it. Especially if you want to do battle maps and you want to really get heavy into that side of things.
Map controls.
Playing in this game made me buy a Foundry account.
A lot of the adventure paths that Paizo releases, they also in tandem release a Foundry module for them. So they'll just come with all that stuff built in to it. So it's so easy to get started.
It was a game changer for me in terms of how much prep I had to do for the show. And I just remember when we made the switch, it was there was a small amount of time where everybody was getting acclimated, but it was pretty fast. And like
faster than Roll20.
Yeah, just like not having to do so many of the calculations and stuff, it just went so much. It went like twice as fast for battles, I think.
I didn't have to make a list anymore. It was great.
That's right. Yeah, oh my god.
Every time.
You stopped doing those. I was like, oh yeah, we don't need to.
So that was huge. It was really difficult to do all the combat and stuff and keep all the rules and stuff straight. There's just so many. I'm always amazed when people will be able to like quote the rules like about certain things in the channel, and I'm just like, how do you remember all this stuff? Because I'm pretty good at remembering a lot of this stuff.
Yeah,
but it's the rules section in the 5e player's handbook is like a one chapter. It's small. The rest of the book is like races, spells, all that stuff. The rules are actually like one chapter in 5e. So the rules in Pathfinder are not one chapter. There are many chapters. So it's really tough to go through it all. And they have a lot of resources to help, thankfully. And we use most of them.
Yeah.
So for me, running a game in Pathfinder is one of the most challenging systems that I had in terms of GMing. It was extremely difficult. When Paizo, Paizo supplied the adventure path, that was massive. That helped me so much. It freed up my time so I could think a lot more about like balance. It helped me free up time to actually, give players a little bit of space for things. Like, I think it just helped in so many ways. And the visual aspect, I think from an audience perspective, when I'd go back and like look at some episodes or whatever, it was much more enjoyable. I mean, it just stuff was animated, and it was, you know, it just looks cooler. It's more, you know, it was just kind of better. So it's a really good change, I think. And I think it leveled stuff up. Okay. So system-wise, I'd say overall, I like it. I think it's a little too complicated for me in terms of running a show. It's really difficult to kind of like keep track of all the spells and things. But hey, first time. So.
I think you did a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. You
Absolutely.
all did a
I
great
think we all did a great job,
Yes.
especially Faye with the clutch, like bringing up all the rules and stuff. Like,
Faye was the
I'm
backup
not glad
GM.
to have to do this anymore.
and
I
thank
love
you
Pathfinder, but-
hugely to chat. Oh my god.
Yeah, we had so many awesome people in chat who were helping us out the entire time. It was insane. We had a lot of questions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go through some more story stuff, I think. Ockley asks, and this is an open question. It looks like it's geared for me though. What was up with the old lady that bought the paintings and had the same music playing from the Haunted Orchestra? Can we get a quick recap of the Haunted Orchestra debacle? LOL. Yes. Okay, so the old lady that was in what the hell was the name of that place? Egida.
It was, yeah.
Okay, so nothing. It was a complete psych out. It was a complete psych out. I just made her super weird in case you wanted to do some investigating and stuff, and you were going to investigate that whole house and nothing strange was going on. She's just a weird old lady.
She's a fan.
Just a weird old lady. Yep.
Weird old lady that you threw me a bone to buy my my paintings.
Pretty
for.
much.
So. Yeah.
Didn't like her house or something disappear? There was something weird with that. I forget what happened.
Yeah, we looked
teller
back and her house was gone.
Oh, that was the fortune teller. Yeah, yeah.
No,
yeah.
that was the fortune teller.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, just a weird old lady. I was just like, okay. One big complaint that I had with this adventure path was how little there was on Egida. You go to this is a very interesting place that has sort of fallen on hard times, and they had nothing. They had that one fight in the square, and that was basically it. I was like, this is one of the only like major cities that they're gonna go to in this whole adventure, and there's nothing. We got Liepestad and we got Egida. That's that and
Castroville.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's it. 88
Damn.
88 sessions, man. Come on. We got to have something for Egida. So there was nothing, and there really wasn't very much online. So like I was just like, all right, well, I got to spice this place up a little bit. So I added a few interesting NPCs here and there. And Frank has been reading the Galarian like lore and stuff, and that whole area was very interesting. And he wanted to touch on like how tieflings were treated and stuff. And I was like, yeah, man, I want to show it. I want to show like they're not treated well. And like how that's kind of being reconciled. That's one of the really amazing things about Pathfinder, by the way. Because I know Frank and Stella both talked about it when we were doing like character creation and stuff originally. Was we were looking through the ancestries and all the ancestries and stuff, and they just have an extremely diverse group of people and ancestries in the lore. So you can have people that are struggling, or you can have people that are that are doing really well, and they're they just have the very different cultures, and they just give you a lot of options and a lot of cultures and things. And you can be from here, and this is why the people are from here look the way they do, and this is why their culture is this way. Explain all that stuff, and they've got books about the ancestries, and it's really detailed and rich. And that's important, man. That's important.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say how many times in D&D I wanted to play an elf, and I was like, well, I can't play this elf because they don't have bronze skin anywhere in it. I can't play this elf because or this this creature because there's nothing on them. They're just looked at as evil, what a blah blah blah. But in for instance, Adronis's like mother and sister of Veroni Oasis elves that are placed there to protect Katapesh in this other place, and they're all dark skinned. And it makes sense because they're in the freaking sun. It makes sense. I never understood. Right? Yeah, I never understood dark elves being dark underground. It didn't make any sense. They should be pale as hell. You get no pigment. Anyway, so that
perverts.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like pissed me off about D&D is that they have these unique things they bring up in the Forgotten Realms. That there are 2 different or 3 different dark elves, but they only focus on the ones on the ground and make them evil because they're Loth bound, and it gets so exhausting. So when we were creating characters, I had an issue creating a character because there were so many interesting things that I could relate to personally on a personal level, and I wanted to hit on in that Egada scene. I wanted Malavik to have a touch of humanity in him. He's always seen as a monster, and he sees people like him struggling. It's just like he has to do something. Why hasn't anyone done anything? And too bad I can't really like expand on that. But yeah, it was just like a turning point for Malavik because I didn't want people to think barbarian, all the time. He was intelligent. He's just that he was focused. He knew he was being toyed with, and when he's okay with being toyed with because he can handle it. But when you see people that are helpless being toyed with, especially his people, nah. So it was good because it related to a lot of things that I think a lot of people can touch on. So yeah, I love that about Pathfinder.
Yeah, there were like 8 PDF pages about orc history, and it was so awesome, especially because they don't just go like, oh, the orcs are like warmongering people. Like they specifically, like the Burning Sun clan that Arcelia's from specifically goes around with diplomatic missions to try to fight bigotry against like orc kind and like literally anybody else really, just to try to like help fight against stereotypes. And also just guess what, people are people. Like the orcs have come together in an age of enlightenment, and they have beautiful art, they have beautiful culture. They're not just like living Savages. In huts and stuff. Yeah, exactly. So that was really cool.
That's a big shout out to Pathfinder in general, because we had some meetings with Pathfinder, the people that are there at Paizo, I should say, and they all are very from different walks of life and very cultured, and they emphasize the importance of like including everybody, inclusivity and stuff. So you can see that it works inside of their workings, and the people that they get the talents and creators, just like me and you and everyone else, get the right stories and Paizo stuff. I mean, they have to pass a certain clearance, but the fact that they have interesting people that care about that stuff writing stories is big for me. Hopefully D&D and Wizards of the Coast get more involved in stuff like that because it's important.
Yep. Hard agree.
It makes me feel good when I hear the players in my games talk about that and they're excited to look into that, because ultimately what all of this stuff comes down to is like, we just want to sit at a table and have some fun. And for me, I've never been a big bar person. I'm not really an extrovert. I don't really like going out to clubs and doing that kind of stuff. This is my idea of like perfect socialization and like hang out with friends and stuff. So when I can see my friends really excited and happy for creating something in a game and they don't act like it's a chore or anything along those lines, that's always good. That's a thumbs up, that matters. No, I don't dance at the club. Okay, let's see. Next question for all the cast. What would everyone's characters do after losing their deviant abilities? Would they stay together as a group?
What deviant abilities?
Well, are we resurrecting Adronis? Or are we taking him to his sister?
Wax said we leveled up to level 11 and I have
Doesn't that
raised
mean
dead. which needs the whole body and within 3 days of the death, so it wouldn't work. But
But there are higher level
There are.
rituals too, where
There's
you can pay
resurrection.
for it.
Yeah,
Yara would sell all her stuff.
Dude, I really, really wanted to do like a backstory thing and just maybe even write it up and throw it in a Discord of like, what would happen if you brought Adronis's head to his mother?
that was the goal. I think that was the plan that we all kind of talked
His
about.
mother is a high priestess of the Aroni Oasis. And I'm just giving you guys this because I never told you guys this. She's one of the, she's max level. She's insanely strong. I don't know if she could bring him back or not. That was just going to be up on a thing, but I don't know the amount of hatred you have to get past his sister. She would hate you guys because he's dead. That's her pride and joy. You know, the sister watched after this kid who grew up with all these elves. He was, you know, half human, he was half elf, treated absolutely horrible on both sides. Katapesh is a trading harbor district, whatever you want to call it, big town that does a lot of trade and stuff. A lot of bad things happen, gambling, you name it, happened in there. And you know, he had to hustle to like make a living of himself. His dad wasn't around, not for bad reasons, but he was raised by his mother and his sister and all those elves, and not all the elves treated him, you know, kindly. So sister taught him everything he knew about fighting. Mother was very respected, well respected from both towns, or Katapesh. I forgot the other one that was north of it that was even bigger than Katapesh, to where they never got bothered by anybody because they were the first lines of defense for anybody coming in that area. And if you didn't pass the check, no one heard of you. You were lost to the sands. So I thought it would be really interesting if they would have showed up with that head. I really wish we had more time to do all of that because I wrote so much backstory and lore on them and we never got to use any of it.
I mean,
So there is the resurrect, not raise dead. There's resurrect, which, just to touch back on that, at 9th level you don't even need the body. Let's see here. At 7th level, you can resurrect even with a small portion of the body.
Yep. Which is why
I
we
feel like
had-
that's something Yara would propose because it's something I was on the lookout for during the campaign as well.
Mhm.
Like I had it on my list of like, I need this ritual if we ever get here. I don't know what level we're gonna get here. But ever since he died, that's like one of Yara's main drives, you know? So
Well,
I wonder what everyone would say.
his mother would have been able to do it. It's just getting past his sister and all the other people. And she would have probably said, how could you let this happen to my son? Da, da, da. But there is a healing water oasis, like a sacred area where they would lay their bodies to rest, but they would ask the soul if it wants to be brought back or not. And a lot of people don't. Moving on to the next life in that culture was something that was of an honor. But dying honorably is one thing. He was slaughtered.
But
I mean,
it
granted,
was a
he
sacrifice
agreed
to keep
to
everyone
it.
alive.
Right, he agreed to it, but that's something that their people would never look at as honorable. So it would have been an interesting little thing to go through.
Touching on that too, Whack, when Karun killed Adronis, did you have any other ideas for what we were gonna do to get out of there? Like, what was your plan for that?
I had
Like, did you have anything for us?
No, I
you
didn't
had
have shit.
nothing.
I didn't have shit. You know, sometimes as a GM, you just have to rely on what the players can come up with. Sometimes, I mean, you don't think about like the fact a lot of times that, hey, you've got 5 brains to my 1, you know? So a lot of times in fights,
Some of us have a whole brain. Some of us are working on half of one.
I got like 2 brain cells working.
yeah, I mean, you got like,
Rubbing our brain cells together sometimes.
yeah, that's the thing when you're GMing, like, even if you're GMing a bigger group of people, you have all these brains coming up with all these different strategies and plans versus your 1. So there's only, I used to do the thing where I'm going to try and plan for every eventuality and blah, blah, blah. You can't do it. You just can't. You run out of gas. It's like you can't do that every week. There's just too many possibilities. There's too many variables. So I have learned I'm just going to go with the flow. And if some crazy bullshit happens, I'm going to have to figure it out. That's all you can really do.
Yeah.
So I will make. If I felt like, hey, you are really focusing on that, I would have absolutely done that. If it was like a weekly thing where you're talking about it and you're like, okay, this is the plan. We're gonna go here. We're gonna do this. We're gonna try and get out of this, or whatever. Or we're gonna escape from this situation, and then we're gonna try and go out of the base, get the fuck out of here, and see if we can do something else. I would have figured that out. I would have had to do something, and I would have figured it out. But if it came down to killing all your characters, I would have probably just done it. I would have done it. I would have just tried to stick with whatever Kanipo would have done.
I love those.
I had a backup character ready to go.
We all did, I think.
I really wanted to play a Leshy.
Can we talk about our backup characters? I want to hear about your Leshy.
There's like you can
There's
choose
a
to make
running
like
joke
a
with a Leshy, by the way.
fucking
Yeah.
cactus Leshy. Like
I was this close. I was this close.
so
Making
close.
a Leshy
Little
barbarian would have been
sunflower on his
fucking
head.
hilarious.
How many of us would have been Leshies?
I had a Leshy. We had a Leshy in the campaign.
I just couldn't
Yeah.
pull off the outfit, the costume. I tried to find filters and everything, and I was like, fuck it, I ain't doing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had a character in my back pocket that I ended up actually getting to use for the Midnight Masquerade. It was going to be like a gunslinger, like an equally useless class for Pathfinder, but it was but was going to be the character that Karun had like stolen her identity in the beginning of the campaign.
Oh.
Karun had like a stolen identity that was like a human.
Karen?
Janet.
Janet.
Janet, that's right.
And I had like this idea for like a super anti-elf gunslinger
God.
character who was just out to hunt elves because she hated Karun so much.
Because the stolen
For
identity.
stealing her
That's
identity.
amazing.
Yeah. I was ready to go.
Do you know the shit you put me through?
Yeah, she goes in every shop and she's yelled at. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because you blame it on Janet every time. So like every
Yeah.
city we've been to, this gunslinger
Everyone
just
hates her.
immediately hated. And an outlaw
She's
shouting
just trying to order
posters up.
coffee.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That was gonna be my backup character. Never had to use her, but yeah.
Philippe Estad, they're actually the drug ringleader,
Yeah.
not Karun. It was blamed on Janet after you
Yeah.
left.
Wanted by the authorities at every turn.
So aside from trying to resurrect Adronis, what was everybody doing? What do you think? Or you don't have to talk about it if you don't want
Oh
to.
no, it's just a lot.
Yeah, mine was pretty quick. It's just
No.
he had a lead to go find the Mosquito Witch. To talk, he wanted to learn more about her and figure out if what she was doing was something that was actually balanced or not. Because Malavic's conversations with him did change a lot of that thought. It's like, well, I don't want to destroy the world, but I could release a disease that would destroy the world. Because he had that capability, because he learned the choking death, which caused an entire pandemic across all of Galarian.
Yeah, and
he
we've
had to
seen
go
so
and
much
recreate it.
screwed up stuff. And look what the doctor did.
Yeah, so Malavic did influence him pretty heavily with that, to the point of maybe I shouldn't wholeheartedly follow this Witch of Pestilence, which he saw as entire balance, when in reality she wasn't in lore balanced.
She's
It was-
evil.
She was not evil. That was very specific. She's more ambiguous, but she is far from good and definitely not balanced. She is about famine and pestilence, which has its purpose in nature, but yeah. So he was gonna go look into more of that, and I think Karun specifically was like, after you do this thing, I'm with you. And they were probably was gonna be Lizard and Karun traveling around looking for Mosquito Witch, going back to his
The
homeland.
spin-off.
It's just the adventures of Lizard and Karun. Gonna make it back down to deliver the head, and then
Deliver the head FedEx.
Go deliver the head. And he was going to go back and go to the Shutterwood, I think is what it was, and then probably go not home because he's exiled and he wouldn't have a place there.
Wasn't the
But-
Shutterwood. It was back to the River Kingdoms.
Oh, that's right. It was the River Kingdoms that had the last sighting of her, which is where he's met her in the region. Anyway, that was that. That's what he would be doing. Karun and Lizard.
Karun was a terrorist. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
What?
When I started the game,
Yeah.
when you guys met Karun, she was like making bombs to deliver to like the heads of like dwarven the heads of dwarven logging companies in the woods because they were tearing down her home. So she definitely was like a terrorist. Like a bomber, like specifically like a bomb terrorist.
An eco-terrorist.
Yeah.
I guess,
An eco-terrorist,
yeah. Greenpeace,
Yeah.
but ramped up to like 14.
Yeah, Green War.
Stella, what's up?
Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, after putting Adronis to rest, I think Malavik and Arcelia would have gone to figure out the Dahak stuff. Because we're both kind of tied to it now.
Yeah. I don't think any of that was made clear. So basically, the deal is that Dahak backed the freak off of trying to like take over Malavik. I mean, he couldn't really do it anyway. It takes two to sign a contract. And then basically in Pathfinder, the way they have worded it, like your word is bond for real. You know, like especially with a god, like they honored their word. It's not like they're gonna go back. I'm pretty sure there's some out there that does, you know, the wordage really specific to where you agree to something you think you're agreeing to, but it's something else type thing. But the Hog was there his whole life, and he pretty much protected him. Protect was on a Malavik standpoint, but it was really like molding him into, you know, the perfect warrior, building out this. And then Malavik's not the only one, you know, and that was just an essence of the Hawk. And the Hawk just wanted the dragons that he felt weren't worthy dead. And then he was like, purge the world, because the world is screwed up, and this is not the vision that we've had. We gave people power that didn't deserve it, and you know, this land belonged to dragons. It didn't belong to this man, and we gave it to him, and look what they've done with this beautiful world that we have. They're corrupted, blah blah blah. So he had, you know, he was definitely evil. I mean, he was a dragon of hell, but at the same time, there was some truth to what he was saying. So Malavik was like, I'll do what I can and spare, you know, Galarian as much as possible. But they would have to go on adventures. But having Arcelia now be part of the deal is a good thing, because Arcelia has a way with words, and Dahak was slowly bending. You know, he didn't want to hear nothing from anybody. And then he started to bend and saw that he was worthy, and so it's really good. So it took some time, but you know, maybe things would have been different. But they've, you know, gone on adventures and discovering who he is, and Malavik can finally figure out who Malavik is. I think that would have been the best thing for him.
There was a point where Arcelia did mention like, come with me, come see the world with me, and would essentially drag you along with her emissary missions. Because like, maybe you just need to meet more people like me, you know.
Yeah. And yep, that's probably what he would have done.
Faye?
I think for Yara, I think one of the things would have to definitely hinge upon what the deal with her sister was. That's like the biggest drive for her, you know. Her sister, like, she thought she killed her sister, and then when we were in the memory tree, they were, or like, not that she killed her sister, but that her sister died because she couldn't do anything. And then in the memory tree, she was told like that memory was fake, right? And then she's getting visions of her sister and stuff. So what was the deal? Was she dead? Was she not dead?
So how much of this do I want to reveal? Okay.
Well, first, are you gonna ever play Yara again? This question.
Are we coming back to this? Do I need to?
I think that's the main thing.
Here's my deal. I like leaving stuff open-ended for people to think about stuff. I really do. I like the idea that we don't get all of the answers that we want. We leave some paths open for people to explore potentially in the future, which is why I wanted to touch on backstory stuff. I didn't want to have all of your questions answered. I didn't want to do that. But I do wish I could have done more with the backstories for sure. But the whole idea with Pharasma is that Pharasma is a very hands-off kind of deity. she is like, let the chips fall where they may. I'm still going to judge everybody that comes through here and send them on their way. That's what Pharasma does. Just if you die, however you die, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to look at what happened and judge you and deem you to go this way or that way. And that's what she does. So this whole situation with Yara was... I tried to keep that in mind as much as possible when I was deciding how to handle the whole Duskwalker situation and the missing moment. Because when Faye and I originally talked about it, Faye brought up a bunch of potential ideas. And I was like, don't worry about it. Basically, I was like, don't worry about it. Because I want to keep it mysterious. I didn't want to tell you how I was going to do it. But trying to balance that with like your own agency and what you do with your character, I tried to do that as best as I could. But the idea was that Pharasma, you made a deal with Pharasma and that you were going to do this because it was throwing the balance out of whack. So in my head, what happened essentially is that the deal was for your sister to be safe and sound. What happens with Yara afterwards, I want to leave open-ended.
Oh God. All right. Well, so I mean, I guess she would keep trying to like find answers with regards to that if Pharasma doesn't come knocking on the door to just, take her out or something. But I mean, either group would be good. I think she'd probably stick with Arcelia and Malavik because they don't have anyone who can do magic, first of all. These two are very likely to get into fights as well. And I mean, she loves them both very much. I mean, they killed a dragon together. How cool is that? That was badass. And I also made it a point at the end of the campaign when we were picking our final spells, that I took sending too, so that no matter where we all ended up, we'd all be able to talk to each other. So Yara has sending and she'd be keeping in communications with them.
That's really cute.
That's real cute.
Arcelia would interrogate all of you for your backstories and your histories so that you can be included in her novel.
The smut one?
Cannot confirm or deny. You'll have to wait for Gatewalkers too.
Okay. Gary.
Fast and Furious.
Gatewalkers, still walking.
Gary asks, the characters lost a day of memory in the lost moment. How do you think they would react if they knew about the event of 300-year loss of memory called the Gap in Starfinder?
300 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
This is my shit because I did a lot of Starfinder stuff. So like when Wack was like starting to describe a jungle and some of the things, I knew it was Lashunta that we were on because that's one of the planets you go to. Yeah, it's a 300-year gap. The short and skinny of it is the planet we're on, Galarian, disappears from the solar system. And there is a space station in its place called Absalon Station. They call the planet Absalon. And it disappeared during the gap. No one has any recollection of anything happening during that time period. No one at all. And there's like no artifacts, almost nothing related to that. It's just gone and the planet is missing. And I think the way that Pathfinder treats it is basically it's still the same time frame. It's just that planet was whisked away somewhere else. And yep, it's really interesting that just no one has any recollection of it, even outside of the solar system, I believe.
Now I want to play Starfinder.
Same.
Crunchier than this by 10 degrees. Just a heads up there. The second edition is about to come out though, so that might be better.
Yeah, it'll get a remaster too, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, second edition's like May of this year, I think.
Oh, okay, so they're doing a second edition.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
like
there's
5 more
playtests.
years from now.
But I love Starfinder. It's very. You can be a little space rat.
Yeah, I feel like
Soul
Yara
guy.
would react just by violently puking. That's about it. That's like my answer for that question. Like 300 years though. That's insane.
I mean, you have
Can you
generations
imagine?
that pass that would have like lived and died during that no one
Exactly.
remembers.
Yeah.
Like, who were my great grandparents? No idea.
That's crazy.
Arcelia would put on her Sherlock Holmes hat.
Little corncob pipe.
Even a ton of other scholars. Yeah.
Malivik would just been like, but is there still a pleasure house?
Okay. This is a question for Technique. How would you imagine Dronus turning out if he hadn't died? Reveal as little or as much of his lore, but I'm asking more about both mechanically with his class and possible bonds with the others, like with Malivik and Arcelia, or just in general. And this comes from Debiru.
Alrighty. Thanks for the question. Mechanically, the Dronus was OP late game. Or I say late game, but where we are. He basically had a bleed stack mechanic that hit for, we talking about persistent damage. We're kind of like freaking out about the 10 persistent damage from Karun. We're talking about, it was insane numbers. I part of the reason why Dronus is not in the campaign anymore, because I felt like before the remaster, Swashbuckler was one of those classes where it was just a nuker, man. You could just you do damage and then your persistent damage just kept stacking on it. It was stupid. But Adronis would have been, I mean, he's very flamboyant, cheery. He's completely opposite of Malivik. He tries to find like the good in everything. Might not be so much of a good thing, because he even tries to find the good in bad moments. You know, I can see if Malivik was having a moment in Egida is what it's called, right? Yeah. With the other tiefling, be like, hey man, they're still here, you know, like type thing. And yeah, Malivik probably would have strangled Adronis multiple times. He would have loved Castrovel. Oh my god, he would have had a blast. He probably wouldn't have left. Bond wise, he was in love with Yara because Yara saved his life in the theater, the theater escapades. Opera House. He was dead. If she didn't do anything, he was dead. I was gonna lose that character early on. Got surrounded. It's like, I don't want to play a tank character, but I ended up tanking. Because he had what is it called? Panache? I think it's called.
Panache.
Yeah. Panache. He had Panache, where he had a very high evasion, like you can evade. But the more enemies, the worse it got, you know. So he was surrounded by zombies, and those zombies, they bite you. It was really bad. So he got saved, and the way his mother and his father met was his mother had a scouting party, and his father was an invader. They killed off everyone else, and for some reason it was just her and the father, and they were both fighting for days on end. They had to get to a point where they had to survive with each other. And the mother saved the father, and that's how they fell in love. And to Adronis, that's the ultimate love. It's like when you have been to wit's end and you're on your last leg, and it can be an enemy, and if you guys see something in each other and able to save each other, that's true love. And he didn't know how to explain what it was. So he kind of was just like very childlike, completely different than what he normally was, and gave her a flute and was kind of like, so yeah, thanks for saving my life, you know, and type thing. And I wrote in a letter that he was feeling kind of close to someone. It was about Yara and stuff. So yeah, that's the bond he would have shared. Him and Arcelia knew each other first, I think, out of everybody. We looked at Arcelia like a very large, bigger sister. She kept him in line constantly, and kept his morals straight, and all the way to Loxialua. Yeah, all the way there to meet the doctor and stuff. He would have been fun. He would have been really fun to play. I think chat would have enjoyed him a lot. I just think that Malivik was something that the party needed overall. If Malivik wasn't there, I don't think we would have survived. I'm not saying that he was the only thing. It's just that having a beefcake in a party, Arcelia could not tank. I noticed early on during the Kanipo thing that Arcelia could not take the hits like you know, early on.
Not until you got the amulet's abeyance. Lower
I
the damage?
had that for a long time, but it wasn't enough. Especially like if there was more than one like enemy swarming, just having literally another body in the front line, like that was just required, because Thaumaturge is not a pure tank class; it's an off-tank class.
Yeah.
I think what would have ended up happening is Yara would have had to
Yeah.
tank.
Champion.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would have gone champion instead
Yeah,
of
we were thinking about that.
Blessed one. That's why I was messaging you, Wack, about it. Remember, I was asking you between the two? Because if Adronis hadn't died, we would have really needed a tank. I would have had to be the tank and the healer.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that would have been interesting. That would have been
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Do you think we would have seen more healing from Karun and Arashtok if that was the
No,
case? No, immediate no. No.
No.
Not at all.
Rosh talk probably, because I know the first half, I was like a mix of debuffs and attack spells, and then I slowly tapered the attack spells off as they were less and less useful. If that like, it's just, you know what? Fine, I'm just going full buffs and debuffs. But I would have pivoted more toward healing, because you can do that as a witch. You do get those access to those spells, so I would have had to go that direction.
It's
It's sort of the same with Karun. There's 3 different types of bombers, right? There's bombers, or sorry, alchemists, right? There's bombers, which is what I did, and then there's
Mutagen.
biology, whatever,
Chirurgeon,
which I did in the beginning.
Chirurgeon.
And then there's the third one, which is Chirurgeon, and that's the healer one. So I would have had to be like a totally different just kind of alchemist to do it.
Yeah.
And it is basically just like a ranged healer. And I never would have done it. Absolutely never. Never, ever, never.
I think it's funny because like Adronis could not stand Karun. Oh my god. Fucking couldn't stand it. She always bothered
just
him,
wanted to be
talked to him in the head. Yeah. Well, no, because I get
only
it, because
other
she
sort of
smelled, she smelled elf on him, and he's trying to keep it a secret the whole fucking time. And she's just sitting there making his life miserable. But Malavik enjoyed Karun, so I made sure when I created the 2 characters that they did have different, like they were very different in nature. So I wasn't repeating the same character, and this is something I intend to do with other shows too, because I find myself getting in a mix where I'm always filling in gaps for parties and stuff. But if I find something I really enjoy playing, then I'll do it. But Malavik was a personal thing that I was just like, because I was gonna go rogue or monk.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you enjoy the barbarian?
I loved him. I loved every
Malavik was
aspect of
great.
him. I think he's one of the best characters I've made, because there were so much. I didn't write a backstory for Malavik. I was like, something bad happened and I'm leaving it at that, because I spent too much time on Adronis for it to go away. And I loved his dynamic. I loved his attitude about things. I wanted to make a character that could like learn, throughout the campaign, and I tried to make him where he's not hated by everybody. So he was a great addition, but I do miss Adronis, and I really wish that maybe in the future there'll be a character that's similar, that because I don't really play those happy-go-lucky characters often. So yeah,
The story would have been so different if Adronis lived. If Adronis lived, there would have been so much different.
There'd been a lot of
Imagine the
trouble.
chaos that Arcelia and
A lot of trouble.
Adronis.
He would have stole so much shit.
I think this was in a session 0. I don't know if this was recorded or not. It was like our very first chemistry test with our characters, Frank.
Oh, right. We were
Adronis
eating
and
at a-
Arcelia. We were eating in a tavern, and literally Arcelia grabbed you by like your clothes at the back of your neck and picked you up and took you out of the building. And I was like, I know our dynamic perfectly just from this. Oh my god.
Yeah.
It would have been so different.
He had
Really
a mouth
would've.
on him.
Really would have.
Fun stuff. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, a good question. Druidic Dwarf asks me, near the beginning where they went through a portal to First World, you seemed to be caught off guard, basically. Was that in the actual module? If so, was it potentially supposed to happen way later? If it wasn't, how much did you have to improvise? Were there any parts of the campaign that you did improvise? Were there any parts of the campaign that were missed that you wish they would have seen? Okay. So the whole First World thing, yes, I had to improvise a solution for that because half of the group went through the portal and the other half didn't. So I was just like, I'm going to make this as simple as possible, because if I have to do several episodes explaining how the fuck they got to First World, this is going to be a problem. It was going to be so hard. It was so hard to try and explain it. So I made it as simple as possible. I'm like, yeah, you found a way. You found a way there. Yeah, but I made it super simple. I was like, I'm not even going to go into crazy detail and explain how this happened. I'm just going to, Bolin took you. Bolin took you. That was it.
Hey, bud.
Yep.
Rip the portal
wasn't it-
open.
If I remember too, it was supposed to be when we skipped an entire dungeon because we were supposed to do like the dungeon climb to get to Bolin.
Oh, the
and then from
treehouse.
there, and then from there we'd have a way to get to the first world. And we just went, well, Arashtak and Karun and I think Kiara. The three of us, he's like, I found a way to open this portal. I'm gonna fucking leave because we're gonna die. Bye.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
Jordan's just like,
he
I
was
ain't
gonna
going in that
go
shit.
I was gonna go alone. And then people joined him, but I was ready to just leave and potentially have that be the end of Arashtak right there. And then people joined him. He's like, oh, okay.
I try to do the yes and thing as much as possible. But that situation, I was like, man, I don't know what's going to happen if they follow this thread. I was like, we're doing an adventure path here. I'm like, how am I going to tie everything back together? I'm just going to make it so Bolin is going to handle this. And I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. Because sometimes that's the answer. You just keep shit as simple as possible. And you don't have to go into extreme detail on everything. And I just ran with that. I was like, no, because this first world shit is really cool. And I wanted to do more of that. I will say that is because I didn't see any questions about this, and I did want to touch on this. But when I first decided on Gatewalkers as the module, the adventure path for this, originally this was going to be Dragonlance. The show was originally going to be Dragonlance in D&D.
So pumped.
Before the OGL shit happened. I felt like I got punched in the stomach when that happened. And it was really tough. I took a minute to really figure out what I wanted to do. And I'm pretty sure it was like, I just threw it out to the group. I was like, what do you guys think about Pathfinder? And everybody immediately jumped on it. Everybody was like, yep, let's do that. And they made their characters already. I'm like, guys, don't buy anything. Buying costumes. And I was like, I haven't made a decision, guys. I haven't made a decision. I'm buying this. I just spent $500.
I was like, I only spent $500. It's okay.
Looks pointedly at the closet full of costumes.
I'm just sitting here like that Winnie the Pooh disassociated meme. Woo! Floating out of my body. Like, I didn't make the choice yet.
You gotta lock Wack in, or he'll change his mind. And we gonna lock him in. We've spent money.
So yeah, they basically decided. I'm like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? So I looked through all the adventure paths, and I saw Gatewalkers was jumped out at me because it was selling itself as a paranormal investigation adventure. Now, in my opinion, it deviated heavily from that.
Yeah.
And I think originally, when you saw the teasers and the trailers to the show, I based those on what was in the initial release of the adventure path. And it was like, hey, this is going to be about... They really wanted to hype up the deviant abilities and stuff. And I really wish that was explored significantly more in the adventure. I feel like it should have been worked into the adventure a lot more. And I feel like the book, the adventure path is broken up into 3 books. And a lot of the adventure paths are done this way, in that they're either like 3 to 6 books usually for these adventure paths. Some of them are longer. And this was 3 books. And I was like, 10 levels is good. I was like, that's a very good length of a campaign for a show. We did that in Rhyme. And I was like, I think that's a good amount to play this, because if we're going to play Pathfinder, I want to learn it. So we did that, and I felt like the adventure path really heavily deviated after the first book. I wasn't really happy with that. And I didn't really like how... Like the adventure and traveling to all these places is cool, but I feel like it was too much. It was too many places to fit into one adventure path. I really would have liked it more if they cut it maybe in half of the different locations, and a lot of the initial stuff that kind of revolved around Kanipo and the key and stuff and the missing moment, I really would have loved if they focused more on the horror aspect or the paranormal aspects, and we really got to do more investigation. Because I don't think it was really done enough in the adventure path.
They needed to pick a theme. I feel was like the
all over
moral
the
of the
place.
story there.
Yeah.
They needed to pick a theme, and I feel like the best one, like you were saying, was going to be the supernatural, the horror kind of side of things. It didn't feel like a horror campaign, really.
Yeah. And that's why I picked
In the
it
beginning,
because
it
of that.
Yeah.
You know, that was the reason that I chose this adventure path, was I saw this stuff and I'm like, oh shit, they got all this weird like body horror stuff. That was originally how I sold it to the cast, was this. And then as time went on, I'm like, why aren't we doing more of this stuff? Like, they're barely using their deviant abilities, you know, and it just didn't feel like you needed to use them
What
really.
deviant abilities?
Yeah.
Well, the biggest issue I had with like all the deviant stuff, and I know for Witch it was particularly bad, but I also know for a lot of the other classes as well. I know for Witch, I think Alchemist too, a lot of our abilities, our main core abilities, had to come from class feats. The times that you could get upgraded deviant abilities were the same time as class feats. So it was do you want your class to do well, or do you want this thing that's kind of obscure that won't work all the time? It's like, well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick my class, so I never, until Whack was like, here, you get a free upgrade.
Yeah, I had to give them free stuff to
Yeah,
get
but,
them
like,
to use it.
Yeah.
If they had actually like put it in the campaign, like, you know, with the investigation or whatever, like, hey, at this point you're gonna get or like a level up of the
Separate.
ability,
Yeah.
like you get with the level ups in general, then I'd be like, oh, I'm more interested in this. But because it wasn't, it's like, well,
They
I'm not
could
gonna-
have, from a mechanical standpoint, they could have made the story revolve around the deviant abilities. So like at each story point is when you get an upgraded deviant ability. You know, it's like you go here and this is an evolution of your deviant ability. Some kind of horrible paranormal thing happens and your deviant abilities evolved and like you're changed in some horrific way or something. You know, that would have been the way to go, in my opinion.
They would have had to focus a lot more on adding more deviant ability trees and stuff like that. I feel like we were very limited. A lot of the choices were very samey. A lot of them didn't work with particular classes and stuff. So I feel like my biggest nitpick with the deviant stuff, because it was cool, like there was some cool stuff with that. If they did want to revolve it around the deviant abilities, they would have to completely rework it, add more, make sure that they work with every single class, you know. But I mean, other than that, we didn't really use them that much.
Yeah, my deviant ability was the invisible hand thing, and it's not dexterous, it's not strong. There was like no way for me to actually use it in combat. Like the only time that it was useful was when I tried to steal the keys from Kanipo. But
yeah,
other
and
than
you opened
that,
a door,
there-
a trapped door with it.
yeah, and yeah, didn't feel, it was like really difficult to choose them at character creation.
Yeah.
And then with the one that I chose, it just never made a lot of sense to use it.
I had a shove attack. Like, I used it at the very beginning. It was really just cool and like body horror, and like it talks about like your bones cracking, reshaping, and like stretching and shit. It was really interesting. But I'm like, but I'm a caster. I don't want to be punching things. And then like the later higher level abilities, which we got at the very end, that's where it's like, okay, here's troll regeneration, and there are other cool stuff that we finally got, but it was right at the end because we didn't want to take things.
I had like a suck ability.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you guys know this.
I don't know why, but the way
had
you
it.
said that is so nicotine.
And Karun, it's both.
I just had that one in the back pocket the whole game. I don't think I ever used it. It was like a super
You sure
suck.
you didn't use it? I think you used it at that tavern.
With the
You only used it when you put the maid outfit on.
Yeah, that's right. You're goddamn right. No, I had a suck ability, and all that when I was picking the class, the special feats, I was like, man, none of these make sense for Karun, except for the one thing that could leave somebody else at a disadvantage. at a slight disadvantage.
Yeah.
But
would
that's
say
actually
so.
not how it mechanically works. That's just how I thought it worked when I took it. So I picked the wrong ability, and I ended up with a suck ability for the whole game. I don't think I ever actually used it.
Yep. So yeah, I know it was kind of touched on a little bit about like Pathfinder in general, but for me the way that the adventure path kind of resolved itself was very awkward. And again, I'm trying to generally try and play these fairly orthodox. If I took off that limiter from my brain, I don't know if I could have changed much, because when we started this, I didn't have all of the books until how many months in? Maybe 2 months into the campaign or something.
Yeah.
I feel like it was around there. So 2 months into the campaign, I didn't have is when I got the last book. So by then, I could have really analyzed everything. It's a lot of work though, in general, to go through. I mean, this is 100+ pages of material to kind of like try and figure out all this stuff. And this is the first time I'm playing Pathfinder 2e, so that was its own challenge. That was another reason I tried to keep things kind of orthodox. Was like, I don't know what I'm doing yet. I need time to figure it out. So I would have definitely changed things up if I just didn't play it orthodox. I would have changed the whole story. From the beginning of book 2 all the way through the end. I would have changed the whole thing. You wouldn't have gone to the North Pole. You would have. It would have all revolved around the Lich Island, that area, the Isle of Dread.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would have revolved around all that.
Right?
Yeah. I would have done everything around there. To me, that would have made sense to kind of stick with all that stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's where Yara was. The Great Lands.
And then that would also be bordering on the Orc lands as well, because that's where the Whispering Tyrant is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Side campaign.
Okay, for all the cast, again from Druidic Dwarf, what was your inspiration for each of your characters? Does anybody know right away that wants to go?
Yeah, I'll just start.
Yeah.
Adronis was essentially supposed to be a D&D character. Adronis was the son of, my God, Forgotten Realms, the Dark Elf that he was Lothborn, but he ran a company. I can't remember his name anymore.
Jarlaxle.
Jarlaxle, yeah, he was Jarlaxle's one of his sons, because Jarlaxle has many sons. And Jarlaxle slept with a lot of things and people. And he was running his company in his stead, and he got tired of doing it, and he was supposed to be that character, and I was really upset because that character was I wrote so much on that character for years, and I was like, I can't wait to like introduce him. And Dragonlance, he was going to slip into there, but unfortunately it didn't happen. So
Dragonlance is a completely different setting than Forgotten Realms.
I know, but the character build would have slipped in there. And because I was gonna do like something like a magic but swordsman at the same time. It was gonna be kind of cool. But then when we decided on Pathfinder, Wack was like very, very much telling me not to worry about anybody else, what they're doing, this, that, and the other. So I was like, fine, I'll just make this. And I was like, a swashbuckler sounds fun. There's a lot of water in Pathfinder. This would be great for him to travel by boat and have some kind of,
we did a lot of boat travel in the campaign.
Yeah. And it was going to be kind of like a cross between Johnny Depp's character and
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Caribbean meets, somebody I was making, Dronus, that I was making before. And I thought it was going to be really fun for the party and something to keep the spirits up and stuff. And then Malavik pretty much is a cross between like Kratos and some mix between a bunch of characters. Some character I made on Baldur's Gate 3, and I wanted to do this like really like Monster Hunter style character who grew up had a very hard way of growing up, was very tribal, and kind of like stuck to his ways, because we had a comedic relief already in the group, We had a caring, motherly type in the group. We had someone who kind of kept everyone together. I was kind of balancing the scales with that when I made Malavik. That's it.
Who's next? Nicotine?
I had my chat make the character actually. I was just live on stream and I was like, hey, we gotta build a character for this game. And
Remember when
so
you sent me the PDF? I was like, you named your character Karen?
Yeah. Chat wanted to name her Karen. I was like, well, yeah, sure.
Immediate face palm when I saw the character sheet.
Yeah. It was great. But
So
I
Karun
really
is
wanted
Elven for Karen.
I really wanted to make a character who like lived in the woods and like hated technology and like maybe didn't believe in magic, like despite living in a world where magic is commonplace, you know? I thought it would be really funny if there was just like a character who just lives in the woods and like hates technology and writes manifestos, you know, and makes bombs and just like hates progress of all kinds. And then as time wore on, like I started to come up with a lot more, you know, about the character and sort of her reasoning for it. And, you know, she's an elf and like, I adore the concept of Pathfinder elves. I think Pathfinder elves are so cool. They're aliens. They're just aliens. They have like weird eyes. They have like a weird, kind of language, like weird history. They're aliens. It's really fun. So I desperately
They're also
wanted
assholes.
Yeah, they're also
Funny enough.
assholes, and it was perfect for somebody who just lives alone in the woods and wants to bomb stuff, and write manifestos. So that was the inspiration for Karun. It was chat. It was chat's fault, and then I took it and ran with it.
I also made a mistake because I just let them make whatever they wanted, and everybody used Path Builder to make their characters. And that has everything. That has all of the modules, adventure paths, all of the other books, everything. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm like, you're going to make a what? Like, what the hell are you talking about? I've never even
terrorist.
I never even read this shit.
Yeah.
Like, what was
Unless
your
she brought the bomber.
anti-tech activist? It was an anti-tech activist background.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh my God. What am I gonna do?
Actual background in Pathfinder that's anti-tech activist. Her original stuff, the reason she has like glean contents and like Eyes of the City and stuff was because she was gonna be literally like a supervillain. Like I wanted her to become like how we would conceive of like a supervillain coming in at night into a town settlement, like rigging up bombs. Some superhero somewhere like desperately trying to decipher the codes that she's leaving behind. Selling schnews.
Amazing.
I did get to do some supervillain shit too. Do you guys want to see what the gun looked like? I actually bought a gun.
Sell the gun.
I was telling the other cast members that the gun, because the way that Karun's like whole setup is in black and white basically. So whenever I have the gun out, you can't really see like what colors it is. But this is the gun reveal. Are you guys ready? Gun reveal.
Oh my God.
It's purple.
Actually, it's not that bad. I'd imagine that.
Gun reveal.
I can see Karun painting it that color. Need to be flashy.
Yeah.
I thought there was gonna be more orange.
Disappointment.
Yeah, there's a little bit of orange right here.
For Rorschach's creation.
The ASMR.
Oh, nice, hell yeah. For Rorschach's creation, I just wanted something different that I hadn't played before, like full support, not healer support even. Just I wanted something, which is why, like especially with I think Frank and everybody else being like, this is not a strong class. I'm like, I'm very aware.
It was
like,
a combination. Lizard,
yeah,
witch.
Yeah, and lizard folk, which is negative intelligence. So I nerfed myself right off the bat at character creation, having one less stat on top of everything else. It was an RP character, full on, which was fine, but like especially for the first maybe half of the show, I tried not to talk very much because lizard folk are really antisocial. Like it's a part of their lore. They don't trust anybody except dwarves and gnomes, basically. And the reason he went out was because he was exiled. They don't leave their home normally. You don't see them outside of the river kingdoms because they used to be the people that ran the world with the dragons, because it was just them and they were invaded, and so they hid. So I don't know. I wanted someone who was just very different, weird, and socially inept. Because I mean, right, coming from 100 Club, where I was Barry, this loud, boisterous, extroverted, like get in the face of everything, even at his own potential cost of existence, and I was like, nope, I want the exact opposite of that. Ooh, combat, I'm out, bye. Like, so yeah,
It was funny.
Watch 100 Club.
Yeah. Underrated show, 100%.
It was a lot of fun. But yeah, so I didn't want to do Barry again. I wanted someone very, very different.
For Yara, originally she was a purple-haired Twilight cleric in a Curse of Strahd campaign that never finished. And I was really sad because they had just released Twilight Cleric, and I was messing around with that, and I really liked her vibe. So I had brought like a reincarnation of her, so to speak, and that's also kind of why I like gravitated towards Duskwalker. I made a character on like a roleplay server named Nara, who was very similar vibes, but her like color scheme and everything was different. And I was like, I really like this archetype. And so when Wack was like, hey, do you want to do a paranormal investigator show? I was like, yeah, like, of course. And I thought long and hard about what I wanted to do. And I was really sad because Yara never got like any sort of an ending on like that other campaign that I was in. So I completely like took her and restructured her. And I like to think it's another variety of her little reincarnation, so to speak. Yeah.
Might
That's
very
it.
well have been.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, true.
Stella?
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of what Dan said, playing kind of like a chaotic character in 100 Club, I wanted to do something very different. Originally, the very first like path builder like character sheets that I built, I was gonna go either catfolk or a kitsune, and I was gonna potentially be sorcerer or oracle, like less healing and more of like the other stuff. But then I decided, oh, thaumaturge looks really interesting, and then I decided I'm not gonna play another like trickster chaotic character. I'll play something more grounded, and it felt like it kind of fit with the vibe of what everyone else was playing too. So reading thaumaturge, the orc part just started to come out and looked cool.
Did you like Thaumaturge as a class?
I loved it. It was, I'll be totally honest, super fucking confusing. As you can see in the finale, learning stuff about my class, like 88 episodes later. But other than that, I thought like switching to Foundry helped a lot. It helped so much. But just in a nutshell, I thought Thaumaturge was great. There's so much flexibility that you can go with it. Like, for example, if we didn't have Malavik as a dedicated tank, the second implement I would have picked up was a chalice, and I could do a self-heal, basically. Yeah, but it kind of was pointless because we had such great heals coming from Yara, so I didn't need to worry about that. Thank you.
I got you, baby.
Also from Druidic Dwarf, what were your favorite or least favorite part of the events that unfolded, minus the cupboard beating?
I love
My
the
favorite
cupboard
and
beating.
least favorite at the same exact time, getting thrown out a window. No, I jumped out the window, but I almost, that's right.
I had a couple. I have this, I always tell people this that are close to me. I have this superpower. I believe that people do have some kind of superpowers. It's not like shooting lasers or nothing, but I have like prognition or something. Like I figure stuff out really, really fast, and it's a blessing and a curse, because if I'm watching like a movie, I already know what the ending's gonna be like. So in this, I slipped the tongue. It was just like, this doctor is a fluke, bro. There's no way this guy is good. And I threw that into Malavik, and finding out that I was right was actually really fun. Stomping his ass was probably the most fun I had in that. But I think my favorite moment is being eaten and then getting to bust inside of him due to Arashta. That was really cool. That was a really cool scene.
Thank you, Wack, for enabling that. And me looking.
I thought it was
doesn't
amazing.
Say I have to see the person, so can I do it? And you're like, yeah, absolutely.
It was sick, dude.
Oh, that was cool.
And then I got to be big and just smash it. It was really cool. Yeah, that was awesome.
I loved when what is it? Oh gosh, there's two moments in particular. There's like so many moments actually. I really loved the shop robbery scene with Malefic and
Oh my
Essie.
god.
Oh, yeah, that was good shit.
My favorite.
So
Critical
funny.
fails, one
That's so
after
funny.
another. Oh my god, you
I
destroyed
loved
the
and
most
hated that
useful shop.
so much.
You guys got it first.
The roleplay was so good, but like Stella above table being like I GM a lot. I was just like, what a fucking nightmare. I'm like,
Oh,
It was awesome. That was awesome scene.
Yeah, when the dice rolls, when you get those like natural ones one after another, I just try to escalate the problems more and more. To me, that's just it's like, because that shit happens in real life. You know,
Yes.
It's like bad things happen in threes, right? So they rolled like 3 natural ones or some shit in a row. So I was just like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to make this so terrible. The whole shop's gone now. It's just gone. And it was the most useful shop in Liebenstein.
I just like how this big titty orc can slip through the hole, but my ass gets stuck, and the common identifier was Malefic's ass. That was hilarious.
Double cheeked up.
Yeah, they threw money at her. It's like I paid her to look at my ass. So funny. That was a great scene. Good job.
I have a favorite moment.
Yeah.
My favorite moment was the one time I rolled really good in this show, and I got to do drugs with an elf or with a
that was
fairy.
so funny.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
The fly looking thing? Jesus.
Gave up your eye to do drugs with this fae.
Yeah, it was great.
And then
I
you
got to
committed
bring
to
back
it and did an eye patch, which is horrific to wear
Yeah.
during a show.
I
Tablestory
stopped when
eye
I did
patch.
rhyme with that.
Yeah.
Wearing an eye patch for a show is the most, especially when you have to look at numbers.
Disorienting.
4
Horrific.
monitors, and
Horrible.
suddenly I have 2.
Oh, man.
I loved
Worth
so
it.
many small moments though with like the entire cast of characters. You know, there were so many really, really good ones.
Yep.
Okay. Piranha, another question from Piranha. Which area / scene / arc / moment was your favorite and why? So we just kind of did moments. What about areas? What about like areas?
Castrovel.
Oh, yeah.
I loved Castrovel. It was so cool.
Castrovel was very cool.
That jungle
me.
was fucking scary.
Yeah, the jungle, like the combination of like the dragon, dinosaurs, and then like the jungle, and then a city of very like studious and scholarly people. That was super dope. You don't get that all the time.
Yeah. I loved Skywatch. The personality that came from the Smiling Wolves, the observatory, getting exposed to like all that stuff with Sakuachi and everything, and like that entire city just felt so ominous. Really did.
Ooh.
I really dug it.
That was our introduction to ley lines too.
Mm-hmm.
I only did that based on some rolls. That was improvised, the ley line stuff, because you had
that's cool.
because that dragon that was there it's only supposed to be living in areas around ley lines. So that's why that whole thing came about.
Cool.
That was a good addition.
First World, I think, was my favorite personally. Just it was so alien and
Scary.
like it's scary alien, and then getting back, I think like it was tough. It was really difficult, but like the what was it? The jumping between gates. I don't remember. Was that Skywatch that we did that? No, that was coming back from
Castrovel.
Castrovel. Was like
So
the
you went to
jumping.
Castrovel from the first
That's-
world.
Yeah. But I don't know. The first world, like, it felt like the way the writing was, the way you described it, it really felt both desolate and full of terrifying life. It had a really good, I don't know. I kind of almost pictured it like, you see in movies, shows, whatever it is, but where like the ground is like that black, oily, like substance that kind of drips upward unnaturally. Like that's half the time what I kind of imagine that,
Like a
but
No
like
Man's
all
Sky
of the
planet.
wildlife. Yeah, kind of. And like the trees being off and just everything being just shifted wrong. Really liked a lot of that.
I
Yeah, it was sick.
imagined it like, you know, in Lord of the Rings when he puts on the ring and he goes into like the shadow.
Shadow,
realm?
right.
That's how I imagined it.
That's a great comparison.
I honestly, that's what I wanted from the adventure path. That the whole first world situation and how weird and dangerous it felt. I knew what was going to happen. I knew that there was a way out, but I feel like when I was explaining it to you, I was really trying to make it seem like, hey, this is a one-way trip, you know, like good luck getting out, you know. That I feel like they did a good job sort of selling it that way, and it made it kind of easy for me to sell it that way. So I really wish there were more places like that where it really felt like you were making a serious, crazy commitment to go do this thing, and like some really bad stuff was really potentially going to happen to you. And again, it kind of veered into standard fantasy territory.
The lead up to all that stuff was my favorite, like the walking in the woods and shit, and like being extra careful and having to like search for this, what was it called, the looking man or whatever, I forgot what it was, but anyway, it was something that was just like tracking us, and we found the ritual. I found the ritual and stuff like that. That shit was like really, really good. And like I was telling the cast, I didn't tell anybody this, but I was originally looking at investigator as a class, an investigator class, and it sounded so cool. Thank goodness I didn't make it. I would have been so fucking useless after book one.
We had one of the things that I really love that Paizo does is they make these player guides before you start the adventure, and they say like, hey, this is what this is going to be like, and blah blah blah. Unfortunately, I don't really feel like it's stuck to that because it recommended some classes. It recommended, it recommends these languages and things like that. You did run into a lot of different creatures in a lot of different languages, and a lot of it was covered, which was great. But I love that as a concept. Just before you embark down this, 88 session adventure that you're about to do, here's a player guide. Here's some non-spoilery things that we'll just kind of, it's going to touch on these things, and here's some recommended classes. Be great if it sort of stuck to that a little bit more. But I think that's a great tool, and I'm going to try to do that if it doesn't exist for whatever modules or adventure paths I do in the future to give players a heads up, because I think that's
Starfinder.
No promises. No promises. On the topic of character bleed, is there an aspect from your character that you have taken to heart?
Oh, like in a kind of a positive spin in that regard.
Positive or negative,
maybe,
I guess.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
That's a good question.
That's a very good question. I have to sit here and I look at the world very differently. I try to look at the world. It's funny because I try to put in ideals that I normally would not entertain in a character, because we're not put in situations where we have to make certain decisions. But seeing a world collapse around you, I think from Malavik is like not growing up with the luxury of having loving parents and or anybody there for him, where I do, put me in a position where I had to look at the world differently. And Malavik was teeter-tottering on maybe the world would be better if everything was wiped out, because people can't seem to figure it out. He grew up in a tribe where everything was like kill or be killed. The stronger survives. You're only as strong as your companions with you. You can't solo everything. And he's strong, but he's so weak at the same time. And that's kind of how I feel on a daily basis. Like, I'm very strong-minded, but sometimes I just feel fragile. The world takes its toll on me and beat me up. And just reading all this shit that's happening in the world is like, sometimes you find yourself crying without knowing why. And that's something that I didn't give Malavik. He didn't have the ability to cry. And that's just something that I was like, dude, what if I can't release this shit? Because I'm known for building stuff up in me and exploding. Or like locking myself in a closet or some shit, screaming in a pillow. And it's just like, it's okay to cry, man. You don't have to be this alpha male thing that everybody, society places upon you. It's okay to have emotions and let them shits go. It's healthy. So that's pretty much what I took away from Malavik like it's okay to like. I think one of the scenes where he rests his head on Yara's legs or whatever. Just giving up the fight with her, and just falling to his knees. This large, powerful, Nephilim being that's made of power and has this god essence that's interested in him be a child again for the first time. That was important. So there's a lot of thought and a lot of layers that goes into characters that I make, and then, a lot of bleed.
Yeah, I've been eating a lot of hair lately, so.
Chunky drinks. Hmm?
Yeah.
I love you so much.
Seriously, everyone needs a nicotine in their life.
Much. Oh
That's the bleed we need in our lives is a nicotine. Okay. The only healthy nicotine in your life. There you
go. Okay. Let's see. Piranha had like
yeah.
Anybody else want to go? Feel free.
Yeah. So I'm a pretty like easygoing person, and to embody Arcelia, I had to evoke a lot of like Arcelia would not stand down in the presence of bullies, and that she was just such a strong character that wasn't afraid of taking up space. And like, I'll be honest, there have definitely been a few moments where Arcelia would get really emotional and like kind of like loud or like just evoke something. My hands would start shaking. Like it would actually physically, like I would get into it, like, and just feel really electric. And I'm gonna miss that. Yeah, like it was really cool to kind of step out of yourself and play a character that's just, maybe an untapped potential of yourself. Because I mean, that's what characters are, right? Yeah. I'm gonna miss everyone here because part of the character was everyone else that she interacted with too. Okay, someone else talk before I start crying.
I mean, my quickest, just very short, is I'm one of the weird nerdy extroverts that exist. So I'm very outgoing. I try to talk to lots of people in real life. Like I will, you want a long conversation with me? You have it, like easy. So I've gotten like, I mean, and this is, I'm not young anymore, and I've learned like to listen and make sure I'm not talking over people. And like, I used to be introverted, like way back pre-college, and like hid essentially, but playing Roshtok, I really had to continually remind myself, which is part of why I made him the way it is, of just like, just sit back. Just you don't need to say anything. You have no reason to say anything. And I know early on too, which was really sweet of the cast, like they would just check in and be like, are you good? Like you haven't said anything for a while. I'm like, oh no, I'm great. There's no reason for me to talk right now.
I think when you were creating your character too, you're like, listen, I don't want to do the Barry thing again. I want to, like exactly I don't want to take over the scenes. I want to play more of a, a side role. You definitely mentioned that.
Yeah. And that changed a little bit over the campaign, but that's like natural character progression is like you get to know people. Like even those who are very introverted will eventually start opening up to those that they are in their bubble. And so the group essentially became Roshtok's bubble, which is why he was willing to like yell at Malavik at one point, like because he was comfortable enough, at least with the rest of the group, to be like, I need to be here. Why isn't everyone angry about this? Why is no one angry? People are going to be hurt because of this. I have to protect my bubble. But for the most part, but like that's outside of that, I really tried to be quiet a lot of the time because he wasn't a tactician in a lot of ways. He was support.
Got a few like repeat questions. Is there anything, this comes from Tag Neo, what is something we as the audience never got to know about your characters?
Yara's dad was an inventor. So a big reason why she really was excited when we had like the flying disc scene in Castrovel is because like her dad worked on like flying kind of machines and things like that. And that's why when like I had the opportunity to take the fly spell and everything, that's why immediately she took it and why she took so gracefully to flying. Yeah, so that's why she was super excited about that.
Not much so much about Malabik, but Dronus's dad was Varisian and he was werewolf.
Frank was really excited about all the Varisian stuff. Which book
Super
was it?
excited.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the name of that book that you read?
Oh, it's the first Pathfinder book. It's a Pathfinder. If I can forget what they call it, but it's based off of the Pathfinder Society, and they focus on a tiefling and a elf. I don't think it was full. It might have been half elf, but I think. And one was a diplomat, or like he was like somewhere up in the politics, and it's really good. Go read it. It has all about the Vrisians in it, and they were pretty much traveling how do I say this, entertainers, and they would go from town to town. They were entertained. They were beautiful people. They were all gorgeous. I mean, red flag right there, right? And they would dance and get people drunk, and then sometimes, you know, they would eat some people. But where they're from is very dark. It's like vampires that are made of nightmares, not the beautiful, glowing, sparkly vampires you see. They're like parasites. Scary stuff. I'll figure that book out while everybody else is giving their thing.
Anybody else? Any secret character things that you want to reveal? You don't have to.
Yeah, I can't even think. Most of the stuff, it didn't get revealed to most of the players in like player, but or characters, but players like his memories of like why he went into the gate, and like he did talk a little bit about his family situation and how he was exiled, but he didn't talk a ton about like his relationship with Mosquito Witch, though it was explained, I believe, at one time in game, just not in it revealed to anyone else. So I don't think I actually hid anything by the end of that.
I don't remember if I said it out loud in character at some point, but Arcelia did lose a younger sister. And so, like, I kind of play that as in, like, that's one of the reasons why Arcelia is kind of very sympathetic to loss, and I think, like, connected with Yara, having, like, a very similar link there.
Any other big ones that you want to reveal?
Yeah, Karun really likes drugs.
Was
I
wondering
really
about
likes-
that. For
really
88
likes drugs.
episodes, I was trying to figure that out. Okay.
Yeah.
Imagine if Karun had just done enough drugs to think that all this stuff happened to her. Like she
Oh,
she
it's
just
just a
wakes
high.
up
just
from
created-
a heroic
yeah.
dose of mushrooms.
Yeah. She just created
wow.
the entire backstory just
That was
after
the whole
getting
story.
so high.
I actually went back and I read the original bio that I wrote for Karun on Path Builder, and there's a line in here that I wrote years ago that said, "Had spiritual and political awakenings after consuming several types of mushrooms and berries." And like that, yeah.
That
Yeah.
fits. Yep.
That's it. There it is.
Pretty sure my uncle did the same thing. A lot of stories from him in Woodstock. Okay, let me see. I may have missed it since I arrived late. Was there any plans to play another Pathfinder adventure path or module?
Yeah, we've already bought costumes for it.
Yeah. No, there's no like announcement or anything. There's no this was the only one that jumped out at me in terms of like what adventure path I wanted to run. I didn't I wasn't really looking at anything else aside. I mean, originally the show was supposed to be Dragonlance, but other than that, it wasn't planned to be any other adventure path. I read the Gatewalkers thing and I was like, "Oh, That's exactly what I want to do right now. I want to do something that's not the standard traditional fantasy, and I wanted to do the paranormal investigation. And it was that in the beginning, and then it went sort of leaned right back into the fantasy stuff. Okay, a couple more questions. Piranha had some more good questions. For Faye, did you go into the story determined to become a BAMF support healer, or did that just naturally progress while exploring your character?
Well, so when I was brought onto the cast, most everybody had kind of decided what they were gonna do already. And I saw that we didn't have a dedicated healer. So I did a lot of talking with Frank, and I did a lot of looking up stuff on Nethys and everything, and looking up build guides and stuff. And Frank was like, listen, Life Oracle is apparently really good, but it's also apparently really hard. And I was immediately drawn to that. I was like, really good and really difficult, perfect. So because back then, Oracle, you had to balance your curse a lot more in combat. It was really, 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 really fun. Mechanically, I loved pre-remaster for Life Oracle in particular. I understand why they changed some things, but I loved it so much. And I also did a lot of reading and stuff. My backstory for Yara was that she was a field medic. Her sister was fighting alongside the Knights of Lastwall at the Gravelands, so she was a field medic there. She was basically the +1. They were like, yeah, we'll take you, Vera. And she said, well, my sister, she knows medicine and stuff. I'm not going anywhere without her. So I started her off as a field medic, and I wanted to really, really try to break the system with heals. I did. I really wanted to yeah. So I went online and I was like, okay, what are the things in Pathfinder that people say are the best healing wise? And battle medicine was the top thing, investing in medicine, the medic dedication and everything like that. So good. We would have died so many times.
Yeah, it was a game changer when you did it.
Yeah, and it was night and day with the amount of
I remember when you first did it, I was like, you do what now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Her first heal, she was so fucking upset. She was like, I don't feel like I'm doing my job.
Yeah, I had to take assurance early game because my modifiers were so low. But it ended up popping off once you get towards mid game with battle medicine and with the medic dedication and with Life Oracle. Oh my god, it was insane. So to cut this off, yes.
Okay. For nicotine, we saw glimpses of it when the facade broke a few times, but I'm curious to know how heavy the act of freeing Adronis was on Karun's conscience. There was already a heavy burden there, after all.
Karun has loved and lost so many people that it's difficult. That you can tell that it's just difficult for her to connect with anyone ever, because she knows that, like a cat, like having a pet rat or something that is gonna die eventually, and you're gonna have to just watch it. And the more love you pour into something, the more it's gonna take when it finally dies, and the more alone you'll feel. Just leads to Karun never ever wanting to have a connection like that to anyone. And so the act of putting down Adronis, a teammate and friend, I think set Karun's social aptitude back a long ways. And really made her crawl back into that shell of, I'm not opening up to any of these people. They're house cats. They're gonna die, and I'm still gonna be here, and it's gonna be very, very lonely. So I think it did affect Karun quite a bit in that way.
Fair enough. Who among the group do you think garnered the most respect from Karun in the end, even though she'd never admit it?
The most respect? Probably, I would have to say probably Yara. Just because.
The human?
Just because.
Not a human, Duskwalker.
Because despite
Well, she was a
despite
human.
looking like a human, constantly fighting against her very human nature, to see everyone around her healed and safe, just felt so bizarre to Karun, who absolutely conceives of humans and dwarves to be basically the same thing, and also very hateful and spiteful at all times, every single one, constantly, because Karun is black and white like that. So yeah, probably Yara for just being the most just the most surprising of humans.
I wanted them to have more scenes so badly. At the end, I was like, fuck, how do I get us at a campfire, like talking, everybody? Especially with like the cursed mirror stuff, I wish we had explored more of that and like been able to have that opportunity. It's just the way events rolled out, man. It was tough. It was tough to get those scenes.
That cursed mirror scene was pretty hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
I think, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, I think a lot of that was just because there were so many locations. It's hard. It was hard to like make room for backstory stuff when there's, how many total locations were there? Like 10? Like it was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a good bit.
That was a lot. So you got to travel. You got to each area has its own story. If you cut that in half or less, you would have had a lot more time to explore a lot of things. So that would have probably happened if we had a little bit more space in each location. Sorry to cut you off, Faye. What were you saying?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
I don't know if nicotine is.
Yeah.
This is for Dan. Your favorite clutch disease or spell going off during the whole campaign? My honorable mentions the accidental portal to the first world, Megavitch.
Or Megavitch, yeah, the enlarge. We talked about that. Oh man, the final fight with like the throw of Amonita, like the fight, because it had like 10 HP left or something. But that was neat. But I don't remember which like boss fight it was. But there was one like desperate ray of frost that I threw that finally finished something off. I wish I could remember which one that was. Goblin Pox was great, just in general, always. But like in terms of like a clutch, like, oh god, we need to take care of this now, and we're just struggling. I think both Yara and Arashtak had no spells left, so we were down to like cantrips, and like there were no bombs. And it was something where I was just like, I got a Ray of Frost, and it just so happened to crit and finish it off. And like that was, I wish I could remember which one that was. It may have been like one of the giant plant monsters.
Was it
was like halfway through.
Thing in the plaza? Remember they dumped the thing and then we fought the big
black ooze. Yeah.
Maybe.
I think that may have been it actually, because we couldn't physically attack it easily, so we were like relying on spells. That makes sense. Did the black pudding? Yeah, I think that may have been that one where it was just like a, and it finally finished it off, and we just all breathed like, it's just, oh god, yeah. Okay, that was probably it. But overall, Goblin Pox was still my favorite. Just a spell.
For Frank, how do you think Malavik would have evolved if Dahak never came back and he'd still have the subtle influence of the Mother of Dragons instead?
Oh wow. Malavik would have been, he wouldn't have known what to do. He was helpless. Like not having, think about it like this. Let's say you grew up with your mom and your dad, and they're constantly telling you what to do constantly. They're like, do this, do that, don't do. You're like, but I want to be my own person. No, we know better than you. We know better, blah, 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 blah. And then not morbidly, they're not there anymore, but you moved out and all these real world problems are slapping you in the face. You don't have them there to coach you anymore. You feel lost. Figure shit out your own. Yeah, Malavik would have been lost. He would have been a child all over again. I don't know if the influence from the Mother Dragon, let's call her Mother Dragons, was real or not, based off of what Wack was saying. It could have just been the other voices that possessed him when they were running, during that nighttime escapade that could have caused a lot of things. They could have saw illusions. We don't know. I think Malavik would have deep searched for Dahak. You can only say so many times, I can't wait for you to shut up, when it really shuts up and you're like, wait, where are you? Don't leave me. You said you never leave me. You start backtracking. I mean, he stabbed himself.
Yeah, that was a big scene. Yeah.
Like he took he felt distant from everybody, and everyone was like mad at the decisions he was making, and because he always was told what to do, and now he's just like, I'm gonna go off and just make the voices stop. I need the right voice back. And maybe this world's better without me, type thing. And it was rough.
Yeah, that was a horrifying scene.
The whole, I was struggling with how to present that, because I wanted there to be interference, because I did want to complicate Malavik's situation. I wanted to have something like, dude, this voice that you always have there is gone right now. Because the way that I figured that whole thing out was, you're in the presence of these gods, that are still here in Demora, and you also have Osoyo's interference and Dr. Riddleson's interference.
Yeah.
And through the Gatewalkers symbol. And I was trying to present you with the situation where, like, okay, if you are looking to reach out to, and the way that they justify it in Pathfinder is, you're not supposed to say Tiamat's name, because I think legally they're not allowed to. I don't think they're allowed to use Tiamat anymore. It was one of those things where they're just trying to distance themselves. But the idea is, they're supposed to represent chaos. So if you look at it from that perspective, how do you understand what chaos is? How do you perceive that? And the justification was like, Dahak is trying to warn you, you can't handle that information. It's overwhelming. It's like trying to see everything at once. You can't process it all. If you try to understand chaos, you're going to just go crazy. Because the definition of chaos is just, it's anything. It could be anything. So it's a little bit like the situation that happens in like Warhammer, right? Where like people just, they believe in chaos and they just get all crazy and weird and they just can't handle it. So Dahak was trying to warn you, like, no, don't go down that path. You can't process that information. You need a filter. You need somebody that like intercepts the information, that can process it and feed it to you. You need a filter of some kind in there. So that's what Dahak was trying to do in that the brief moments that he bled through. So
yeah, it's fun.
That was good. Once retired, would Malavik open up Malavik's House of Pleasure, or the pleasure is all Mal's? And would he shout at patrons trying to borrow books instead of buying them?
I think a House of Pleasure would definitely be in the works. Retired. We gotta have
with
somewhere
some little
to.
spectacles.
Yeah. He would have a little gray in his beard. Yeah, he would. He gotta have someplace to sell our serious smut, right?
Let's go.
Yeah, it would definitely be the House of Pleasure at that point. Yeah, for sure. I think Malavik would get with Arcelia, and first of all, Malavik would probably marry Arcelia and Yara. He had it, funny enough, when they killed the dragon, Malavik was gonna be like, both of you are my mates now. You have done the unthinkable. You have conquered a dragon, so he probably would have asked for both their hands and opened up the House of Pleasure. And then they just live a happy life of research and books, and Yara could have a religion section, and Arcelia can have her diplomatic and smut, and then Malavik can be the working the front counter.
Imagine Malavik like hunched over like a front counter with a little book and a little tiny
just sitting there. Did you crack the spine on that book?
Would Malavik teach little kids how to read and write?
Yeah, because his writing looks just as good as theirs.
It's relatable.
That's
yeah.
For Stella, With the whole muscle mommy power fantasy in mind, which is more fun, diplomacy or diplomacy with blunt force trauma?
Both. Like, diplomacy with big titties, final answer.
I think that might be what the blunt force trauma was.
Yeah. I've seen those.
Damn, I missed some opportunities there. Could have definitely taken someone out, like, just swinging my chesticles at them.
Yeah.
Nice.
Improvised
time.
weapon.
Fair enough. For me, there were a handful of times when the group seemingly altered the path pretty radically. Which moment was the most fun for you or surprising? In terms of altering the path, I think the beginning, the whole Bolin thing and deciding to send half the people through to First World and the other half like not. That was fun for a number of reasons. First and foremost, I was debating on how to handle it, where I was like, do I separate them? Because I would never separate you for like the entire campaign, obviously. But like, how long could I get away with separating you for? Like, what is the right amount of time before you're thinking like, are we ever gonna like go back together? Like, actually make you worry about that, you know? Because that's a fun thing to do and explore as a GM, where it's like, I actually scare the shit out of you, where it's like, oh, we're just split now. We're going to go on our own different adventures. That's an interesting thing to think about. I don't know if you can really make it work on a show. It's pretty tough to do. You know, I've definitely played around with it before. I have done it on a show before for a few episodes. But I think playing with that idea was fun. Okay, we've gone through most of the questions here. Are there any other questions that you all have for me or each other?
Told Sal I was gonna do this. I hate how it ended. I did not like how it ended. I know it was a time constraint thing. I would have rather gone a little longer or start the fight earlier or do a pre-recorded session or something. I just feel like I don't GM, so I know the pressure and I know how many shows you do and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just like, man, this was like almost 2 years of like preparation, because Rhyme was rough in a lot of areas, but damn, did that fucking story end really well. Like, you killed it in the ending, and the cast, like the stuff that the cast came up with was just insane. So like, I hope in future shows, or in future shows, I should say, let me label this as a question. Are you going to pre-read? And I don't, and this is not me blaming you by any means. I really 100% blame how the books went from one way to a completely different other way. I think that really screwed everything up. Are you planning to pre-read everything like before you decide to do another show to alter things to make sure they fall into a certain strict expectation by yourself, or are you just like kind of going with the flow and just seeing where it lands?
Yes, definitely. I will never do the thing where I start without reading everything. I'm never going to do that again. I learned my lesson with this. I'm never going to do that again. I see the thing with Rhyme. If you're comparing the show to Rhyme, Rhyme was one of my very favorite modules that I've ever read. Immediately I fell in love with that. I did Gatewalkers because you were all very excited about Pathfinder, and I tried to find an adventure path that I thought would be the best for the group. That's why I chose it. And you know, I told you when we started, I'm like, hey guys, I'm only going to have the first book here to go off of, until we you know, we're getting a new book every month basically. So we're going to, you know, I'm going to get the second book 4 or 5 episodes in the show. So yeah, I'm definitely never going to do that again. And time constraints are definitely a big part of you know, how things go. You know, but it was a long campaign. It's a long time commitment for anybody to make a commitment to. I get it. And when you have a more open schedule, you can kind of end things how you like a little bit more. So
Yeah.
It changes. 22 months.
And again, I'm just for the listener, I'm not blaming him at all or anyone on this show. It's just like when you spend almost 2 years on a thing, you hope the best for everybody, and like use of everybody's time well enough and stuff like that. So honestly, I blame the books being a little out of whack. No pun intended.
They needed to go into a little bit of like the after effects. I feel like I feel as though there were definitely some parts where we could have been rushed along, like the elevator and stuff. Like that was a whole goddamn episode of us trying to get that elevator to work. Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing with that. You could have gone through that faster. I liked that episode though. I thought it was fun, and you hadn't really run into any puzzles really for quite a while.
For a while.
Yeah.
So
just in terms of like balance, I think it was good, and I also like the idea of like interacting with the elder things, and sometimes you have to do that stuff to make you all think outside the box. It's like, okay, here's a problem. We don't have the solution in front of us. What the fuck do we do?
I genuinely felt stuck during that.
Yeah. That was rough.
It was good.
I mean, the point I was trying to make was like if they had kind of given content for like what the world looks like after this, I feel like it would have given another episode essentially.
So they have so they do have like an epilogue kind of thing, which is effectively like this ideas for future campaigns is the way that they kind of flesh it out.
Okay.
So they don't really have an epilogue per se. They just kind of say like, if you failed, if you didn't succeed in this, they have this whole situation where like, hey, Osoya is about to destroy, like effectively create an apocalypse. And this is probably what's going to happen. Make a show. Here you go. Make an adventure. So that's that. They give you some ideas, but they don't really have an epilogue per se.
I feel like it ending in the temple rather than like some sort of like everything's crumbling, like us having to try to make an escape or something probably would have been good, or like some sort of, at least like we had it in rhyme where, we did have an episode, or like the end of the episode was about like what everyone was up to. If I
went back to
correctly.
the town and see.
Yeah.
Like we had that was a time thing, right? Where it's like the resolution happened kind of early in the session, so we still had time to explore the epilogue.
So good.
I wish we had that as
like
what
I
I'm
said,
saying.
I would have done probably one more episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all good. We just got the next one, whenever that would be. So.
Starfighter.
Yeah, we already bought the costumes, Mike.
Check PayPal, Wack. No, I'm just kidding.
We did it like 3 months ago. Like,
Oh God, the emotional manipulation.
just
But yeah,
You
that's
saw a big orc titty monster creature. Wait till you see one with 3 titties.
And tentacles.
we'll call it recall total. So yeah. Any other questions for each other or for me?
Yeah, if you could do it again, cast, what would you do differently? And would you want to have the same cast or be with different people? This is for everybody.
I get rid of Dan.
yeah.
Just
fuck
always
that
causing
guy.
problems.
I'd learn.
Just
Just
like a
runs
father
all the
now.
time.
It's like-
Fuck him now.
I'd learn how to play Pathfinder first. I think.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, yeah, that would be my
Yeah.
biggest thing too, is
That was
knowing
the
the
biggest
system
thing.
better. Because
Yep.
it took like half of the session or half of the show kind of until I think we really felt good. And I think part of that also was Foundry.
So Foundry.
We shifted,
We're all
but-
professionals at this, by the way. Like, some of us do this like for a living, so
Yeah.
it took us a while to get the hang of it, but I think it all clicked. It clicked for me
Yeah.
anyway, and
Same.
yeah.
To be fair, with a lot of systems, I always feel like I have to play it to really learn it.
Yes.
You know, I try to make a bunch of characters whenever I learn a system. I usually try and make like a few characters because the character creation process usually teaches you quite a bit. And just in terms of like, oh, this is how you build this character. This is how you build this character. Okay, I kind of get that. But it usually takes a few sessions. I mean, I had to play a lot of D&D before I really got the hang of it. My very first TTRPG was in 2012, and it was the original Pathfinder.
Oh, I did the original Pathfinder too.
And all of us, I think all of us at one point or another did original Pathfinder in some capacity.
Oh my god, it took me 8 hours to make my first Pathfinder character. I made a dwarf vigilante. Oh, I hated it so much.
It was
I made a satyr with a big ding dong. I know it sounds funny out of context.
Here?
Well, the GM made me roll for something. He was like, wow, that's interesting that you got that number. You have a really big schlong and everyone is noticing it. And I was like, I'm a satyr.
I'm gonna roll to
with
see
a
how big
schlong.
titties are.
Get lightheaded every time.
Roll for schlong.
Yeah, it helped with persuasion apparently.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of GMing, I mean, I said it already basically, but it would have been Foundry right off the bat. That would have been the choice for me.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, Foundry was hell of an upgrade.
So good.
I can't be the one coming up with the questions, man. We got any questions?
Well, so what I would do differently is I would, in Path Builder, build out my character all the way to level 10 at the very beginning. Like, I was trying to make decisions on the fly. Yeah, I was trying to make decisions on the fly as we were leveling up, trying to, like, go with what, like, narratively makes sense. But, like, it was so hard. It was so difficult to, like, pick and choose. Like, it didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to work out. If I predetermined
You can't take
that.
certain things as well, like, unless you plan ahead.
Yeah. That was
Because I'd be like, oh, I have a level 9 feat I can choose now. And I look at the level 9 feats and I'm like, oh, this has prerequisites that I should have taken at level 3 or whatever.
I guess you.
Yeah.
And then there was Faye and I, which would be, we'd be close to a level and there would be pages upon pages of DMs back and forth on spells and feat planning together and being like, does this spell read this way correctly? What's the wording on this? What is this actually saying what it is? And then us deep diving so much.
Yeah, I loved it. I had so much fun. I think us being the two casters in the party was chef's kiss because we're both fucking absolute nerds when it comes to like making sure our build is good. And having balance in within a party too, and it made both characters feel so unique and whatnot. It was so good.
Well, we had to with this system as well, because if we didn't build them right, like we both would have been not useful at all.
Everybody was scared to death in the beginning of the show. Scared to death. Like they're fighting
So
the
many downings.
basic monsters like early on. The balance was way different. Like everything was terrifying. Any single creature was like, are we gonna die?
I got knocked and dying in first session 0.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
One hit, bop. Yeah, Arcelia too. We were just both one club hit because they were like 2d10 damage for a single level 1 creature. Like, oh good, I have 5 HP.
Yeah, I remember that. Dan was
all
like,
my orc bullshit super early.
yeah, oh yeah.
I was just like, did I make a mistake picking this character? What the fuck is this?
Shit was hilarious. You did a breath weapon and got slapped. I was like,
We started that session 0 as soon as I got this violin, because I thought it would be a really funny bit if Karun like took a violin from this place, right, and then played the violin really poorly in the beginning of the show and then got better as the show went on. But then I realized I'm not better at violin.
I have to learn how to play the violin.
That's hilarious. So funny.
I'm gonna learn an instrument in 22 months.
You changed just learning the instrument over the 2 years. Yeah, okay, yeah.
That'd have been cool though. Yeah.
Okay. Any other last questions before we wrap this up?
I'll leave you with a thought. If anybody, but I want somebody else to ask a question if they got it.
I'm trying, Frank.
Okay,
I'm just
fine.
sad.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to hold out. All right, Wack, this is for you. I'm putting you on the spot since you have an audience. I don't have my glasses on. I gotta make sure I word this correctly. If there was a dream campaign that you could put together, what would it I don't want to say what would it be because I don't want you to give that away, but you know what I mean, like
do you want to talk within the realm of Pathfinder?
Just in general, like if you had to come up with your next dream campaign, because you're the fantasy guy of Tablestory, let's just be real. I mean, like that's your thing, whether it's sci-fi, fantasy, or whatever. If you were to put together a dream campaign, what would it consist of, or what kind of prep would you make to get to that point?
I have no idea.
Okay.
My honest answer is I don't have one. I have favorite stories. I have favorite genres and stuff like that. My favorite genre is cyberpunk. My favorite book series is Dresden Files, and I really am liking this series by Shirtaloon called He Who Fights with Monsters. I've been really liking the like lit RPG isekai stuff a lot. And I'm kind of doing that with main character right now. So I don't really have one per se. I think if
the chat said it better than what I was said exactly what I was trying to say, but my words. Like established IP or from the head, like would you? Yeah,
right. So I'll frame this in Pathfinder terms. In Galarian, the thing, if I went with Galarian lore in Pathfinder, I really love the area down south on the world map. And let me pull this up because my brain is obliterated. It's
pull
going
up the easy guide map.
Well, no, I'm gonna put. Oh yeah, that was great. I think I still have that someplace. Let me see.
Here you go.
It's pinned.
Here, I
Yeah.
bumped it.
So we had this really great map when we were coming up with characters and stuff, and I was like, guys, this perfectly explains Galarian. And there's an area that's basically down in the southern continent of this area, and I've forgotten everything, dude. I can't believe how overloaded my brain has been. The Inner Sea. Okay, so the Inner Sea, and specifically, I bought the map for this. So they have an area down in the southern continent of the Inner Sea, near the Mwangi Expanse, which is basically an area where a war has gone on forever, which is Nex and Geb, and they've just been fighting this crazy war for a long time. And because of this magical war that has happened, there's an area called the Mana Wastes in between. I love that area. I also really love Cheliax, and it's a really fucked up place.
I love Chilaxian lore.
Yes.
I would 1000% want to play a Chilaxian. So I actually have a character already made for it.
That's the place that I was talking about earlier. Cheliax is
Cheliax.
one of the best written places.
It's
anyway.
So we have this
So cool.
Inner Sea map explained, which summarizes all these different areas, and it's hilarious. It's like one of the best maps I've ever seen. It basically describes this Cheliax as Devil Fascist Empire. And the other areas that were described earlier, Wizards Squared, Steampunk, and Necromancy Nation. And
Literally Egypt.
yeah,
I love that the Isle of Dread is just labeled.
yeah. So I love the idea of doing a Cheliax thing or something down with the Wizards versus the Necromancy stuff in mana wastes. Those were the areas that grabbed me the most.
God,
That
Pray,
would be
everyone,
that would
pray.
be Pathfinder.
Mhm.
Otherwise,
vampires, werewolves, demons, and devils. Yes.
I want horror.
Oh, that place is horror. All right.
Yeah.
Cheliax is really messed up. Like it's really messed up. It's like, what if they left Nazi Germany there and they were also in league with devils, but they left it there because it was so economically important to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And it's just so messed up. And it's like a lawful evil area, I think, effectively, because it's devils, not demons.
It's great for everybody as long as you're not a gnome.
It's pretty crazy. So I thought that was like a really interesting concept. I don't know how I do it, but just in terms of Pathfinder Galarian lore, I thought that was interesting. Outside of that, I really don't know. I legitimately don't have any plans right now, and it's
of course.
It's being like overwhelmed with shows and things for quite a while. I just have to take a little time to think about things and figure out what I want to do next. But that's it. So, that being said, I think that's going to do it for our Q&A wrap-up. I'm wrapping up Gatewalkers. So, I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you so much, Frank. Thank you, Stella. Thank you, Nicotine. Thank you, Faye. Thank you, Dan, for being awesome role players. I appreciate you. I loved your characters. Love you. And I think you were amazing cast members. And you really made the show wonderful to be a part of every week. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for GMing and
Love you
telling great
guys.
stories.
Gonna miss everybody.
Yeah. The chemistry in this group is so good.
Yeah. And thank you to our wonderful audience. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for the help with Pathfinder, because it was definitely a lot, and we definitely
Yes.
struggled with it. And we appreciate you. Thank you. Even you rules lawyer bastards. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you.
I'm not. I'm just kidding.
thank you for everything. And we'll see you next time. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace out. Bye-bye, everybody.